see the final score, we track the revenue stream. Welcome to the show that treats the sports world like the multi-billion-dollar business it is. We dissect the ownership deals, the television right battles, the NIL impact, and the media figures driving the entire narrative. From Wall Street to the locker room, we follow the money and the people who control the message. Welcome to Press Row, the business of sports, right here on the Empty the Bench Network. Now, here's your hosts, Callan McClurg and Nick Morgasen. Hello again, my friends. Happy Thursday. It's been quite a while since Press Row has moved to the Thursday time slot, but we'll explain why we had to make the move this week after our field day at training camp for the New Zealand national team yesterday on Wednesday. Of course, he's Nick Morgasen. I'm Callan McClurg, joining you today as long as I can. Let me, again, folks, clarify real quick. For those folks that don't really know, sadly, June is always the start of the California wildfire season, and you probably have seen the images of the past several years, but it's come to the fires in LA, Palisades, or what have you. And we sadly get marred, though, with rolling brownouts or rolling blackouts. So there is a very possible chance, very high chance, sadly, because of where the weather is at. There is a fire burning somewhat close by to where I live here within the city of San Diego, that I might be losing my power again for the second time in a matter of days due to the nature of the fires, and again, not wanting to have it spread any further. So I will be here as long as I can until that perhaps happens here. But regardless of that, though, great show planned for the day, though. Nick, great job leading the way, though, for MTGP earlier this morning after Johnny had some technical difficulties today, though. But action-packed show. World Cup gets underway in an hour. Cannot wait to get that underway as well. But plenty of legal mumbo-jumbo involving Texas Tech football, and two heavy-hitting guests today, as well as we talk all things football and even WNBA drama when it comes to the media.
Yeah, this is going to be quite an incredible show. I would say this is probably the most heavy-hitter show we've had since we started doing the show on here. I guess we could just get right to who the guests. Well, before we do that, follow the show on social media at Press Row ETB across all social media platforms at Press Row ETB, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok whenever that happens. At ETB Network, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Go over and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network. Like and subscribe. We are over the 2,400-hour watch mark and growing. We're over 1,120 subscribers, so please continue to hit the subscribe button. It helps to have your support, and that we know we have people behind us watching the show. Okay, now let's get to the guests, because we have a heavy hitter lineup. Double barrel action in the 3 p.m. Eastern time hour. So if you remember, we were talking about a certain somebody, what would you say, about a month ago?
Yes.
And we were planning to have a guest on the show. And it got a little pretentious. Would you say that's the word? A little bit?
Fair.
And it led to not having the guest on. Now, we are going to have the guest on today, live. Crissy Froyd, who formerly of USA Today. Make sure I get this right so I don't get my head blown off. Formerly of USA Today. I think she writes for Heavy.com now.
Yes, I think that's what she said, yes.
And I think she's done a few pieces for Daily Mail and a few other things. She's still working in the business. Let me be very clear about that.
Yes.
She got annoyed that some people were saying that she's not working in the business. Yes, she's still working in the business. Let me be very clear about that. We're going to get into the whole, unfortunately, again, Diana Rossini, Mike Vrabel, what's considered right, what's considered wrong, what are the rules of freelance, because I've heard her say multiple things. So I'd like to get into that. You and I watched an interview she just did recently with Howard Eskin, who's a Philadelphia legend, been in the business a long time.
One of the best.
And you and I watched the interview and our blood boiled slightly over some of the responses she gave during the interview, including exposing Diana Rossini, and then saying, "Oh, I know 6 other people," but not willing to say who they are. So plenty of time. She'll be at the top of the 3 p.m. Eastern Time hour, following Crissy Froyd at 3:45 p.m. Eastern Time. This was another interesting story. So Scott Agnes was credentialed for the Indiana Fever. If I remember correctly, he reported on Caitlin Clark's injury about an hour and 40 minutes before a game, and the Indiana Fever did not like that. So basically, they played media censorship and said, "We're pulling your credential because we essentially don't like the fact that you gave that information out," which I think is normal, everyday information, right? I mean,
Yeah.
We hear about injuries all the time. How is this any different? So those are 2 big guests that we are going to have. So we have a lot to get to between that hour. So let's jump right into it. We're going to talk about the Sorsby stuff again, the injunction and all that stuff, and his idiocy as a lawyer. An update on a Barstool story we covered. Then we'll get to Crissy Froyd. We'll talk about Pat McAfee and his new deal, Vince McMahon, and last-minute TKO UFC merger settlements. What else do we have on the show today? Live Golf is back in the show.
Again.
ESPN under fire for AI, which, if you saw the AI that they used for Tony Parker, it didn't even look like him.
Exactly.
So we got a good show. So why don't we get into it? Let's go.
Yeah, and by the way, I also wanted to clarify real quick that it's only fair, because we had Tony Farmer talk about the Rossini-Vrabel story a few weeks ago. It's only fair, though, that we hear the other side of the story, though, when it comes to Crissy Froyd and her experience and what in her commentary and her public persona. So it's only fair that we hear both sides of the coin, as we try to do here, folks. We try to be very, very fair when it comes down to, how we go about planning our show here. So we will, again, have Crissy joining us at the top of the hour, though. But, again, only fair, though, if we hear from one side of the story, we hear the other one, too, as well, here on PR. So, and as I said, I will be here as long as I can, though, until they snip the power here because of the weather and what have you. With that, though, Nick, back to a very much...
I hate to do this right off the bat. There is a breaking story right off the bat.
What do we got?
There's an exclusive out right now that Phil Mickelson has been accused of non-consensual, inappropriate contact with a female employee at his home course. Following the allegation, he is no longer a member of the club that he was part of.
Do you happen to know which one it is by chance?
I'm opening the story right now to see if I can... And, of course, it's behind a paywall.
Stop breaking the law, asshole!
But apparently it was a place where I think he's from in San Diego. So...
I can only think of maybe Fairbanks Ranch, maybe Torrey Pines. Those are the only 2 that really come to mind.
I'm trying to look this up really quick because this literally broke about an hour ago. So give me a second while we look these up. Here we go. Phil Mickelson has been removed from his home course, the Farms Golf Club in Rancho Santa Fe, California, following allegations of non-consensual and inappropriate physical contact with a female clubhouse employee. The incident occurred in the spring of 2026.
So not even a couple months ago.
After which he was confronted mid-round and told to vacate the premises.
That sounds like he was probably playing around drunk.
According to an independent investigation, Mickelson made non-consensual physical contact with a staff member at the club. The employee rejected his advances and reported the incident to supervisors, which resulted in Mickelson having his membership revoked. Through his defamation attorney, Mickelson's representatives denied the claims, stating the description is contradicted by objective evidence. Following the incident, Mickelson announced he was taking an extended leave of absence from Live Golf to tend to a private family health matter.
Interesting.
He's had an interesting life, to say the least.
And it's only gotten worse since he made the jump to LIV, where I think he was, popped for insider trading too as well, Nick, if memory serves me correct.
He had that. He also had the gambling stuff. He put himself in debt from all the gambling. The Billy Walters book, if you remember that, he was the gambler. Supposedly, Mickelson bet over $1 billion in 3 decades. suffered nearly $100 million in losses. Yeah, suffered nearly $100 million in losses and attempted to bet on his own U.S. team at the 2012 Ryder Cup.
Good Lord, man. Well,
what is it with people betting on their own teams?
Well, let's get into that then, Nick, because of the massive story that broke over the course of the week, though, involving Brendan Sorsby. As we already know, though, Nick, per both, or as we said, though, on ETB Sports, we said on Cranium on Tuesday, you said today on Goalpost here on Thursday, the following intense legal filings, a federal judge has granted a injunction protecting Texas Tech quarterback Brendan Sorsby's immediate athletic eligibility, which is forcing the NCAA to permit him to take the field despite active, high-profile investigations regarding his personal sports gambling activity. The ruling marks a historical pivot point, temporarily dismantling the NCAA's lifetime bans for athletes who wager on their own sports, let alone their own team. So, Nick, with a federal judge completely stripping the NCAA of its ability to enforce suspension protocols for betting behavior, does this legal precedent effectively break the governing body's integrity defense wide open for the remainder of this 2026-27 school year, or what?
This whole story is nuts. I said this on MTGP about 2 hours ago now, that he deserves no chance to play college football ever again. And people can throw eggs and tomatoes at me. You'll understand why I say throw eggs later. But you said this on Cranium. You brought up the bylaw. What was it, 10.3?
It's right here.
I mean,
right here.
Yeah, the bylaw, and I had already known that bylaw too when you shared it. Yeah, I know. You can't bet on your team, regardless if you're a red shirt, you're an athlete that's current. You can't be a staff member, a coach. You can't be associated with the team you're betting on.
Like I said on Tuesday, it doesn't matter if you have a R next to your grade. You still, though, like I said on Tuesday, because I have seen this for the last 14 years when it comes to college athletics at the D1 and D2 level. You might be redshirting, Nick. You're still practicing, taking part in team meetings, going through practices, traveling with the team, unless there's other things going on. And let me again pull out my patient file again from Tuesday to read this to you guys. Bylaw 10.3 says that student athletes, coaches, and athletic staff members, including yours truly here in Southern California, are strictly prohibited from engaging in any sports wagering activities involving any sports sponsored by the NCAA. The restrictions span all amateur, collegiate, and professional sporting leagues and tiers, paid fantasy sports leagues, the casual office bracket pool for the World Cup, or even March Madness involving money, and internet sports books are all classified under the same high-risk tier. Placing any financial wagers on a sport that is offered by your university, whether it involves your specific team or a completely unrelated team on the campus, will trigger a immediate, non-negotiable, permanent loss of college eligibility. Where did I stutter?
You didn't. I mean, when you bet on your own, this is Pete Rose part 2. I said it on MTGP. This is literally Pete Rose.
This is definitely a modern day version of Pete Rose, yes.
And I don't want to hear like some guys on this network that we have that said he was sitting on the bench, he redshirted, he didn't play. Stop. Hard stop.
Because you still have access, as I said, you have access to all of the team information. That could become insider information that, hey, our star player is ineligible. She's not going to play. Go put money on us to lose the game.
And also, he bet on his team to lose. In Indiana, he bet on his team to lose, which is
$90,000 worth of wagers made, 9,000 bets in total over his time in college athletics.
I think it was over 4,500 bets.
Yes.
$90,000 in a FanDuel account, which was shared with a family member. So what he essentially was doing was, a la the mob, he would slide the money under the door and put it in the account, and then I'll tell you what bets I want. You can't do that, people. You can't do it.
No.
It doesn't matter if it's not your name or somebody else's name. It doesn't matter. You can't bet on college sports when you play college sports. His lawyer is a quack, and I'm going to continue to say that because 35 days in a gambling addiction house, he's cured.
Tell that to Christy Wilson, who wrote into Cranium on Tuesday, Nick, that her aunt, it took her 30 years to beat her drug and alcohol addiction. Like I said on Tuesday, it doesn't take one calendar month for somebody to get over gambling, smoking, tobacco, drinking, whatever it might be. Like I said, that takes 5 to 10, sometimes 30 plus years, Nick, as we heard right from Christy's mouth on Tuesday on Cranium.
Right. And I don't think that Brendan Sorsby is truly sorry for what he did. I think that we saw a PR statement, no pun intended, out there. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it. I admit that I gambled on my team and I shouldn't have done it and blah blah blah. My mental health was in a bad place.
Yeah, and also, Nick, I mentioned this on Tuesday. I'm gonna try to get him on, but we'll have to do it over a weekend for a recording. But again, Braden Surprenant is one of the midday hosts here at KWFN 97.3 The Fan. Brandon and I worked together at the University of San Diego. B. Serpnick went to TCU. He knows all about Texas football and Texas athletics and knows about TTU, Texas, UTSA. And he even made the mention, I don't know, and I mentioned this on Tuesday, based off his report, though, from his midday show on Tuesday morning/afternoon, that deeper concern, though, is brewed, though, Nick, per my patient filing from Cranium on Tuesday, within collegiate legal circles, though, regarding a massive blatant conflict of interest, though, on the bench, as crucial judges, though, that heard this case, though, are, in fact, alums of Texas Tech's School of Law. So I even said, you've got everything in your favor for this to work out in your favor, including having the damn county judges that have gone there to that campus to get their degrees, though. That right there is beyond, again, I'll say it. This is win-loss behavior. Try to change my mind. Somebody, please.
How about conflict of interest?
Well, I already said that, but it's also win-loss behavior.
Well, yes, but I'm saying, like, you and I have said this on multiple shows now, that the 4 judges that were in charge of the Injunction case were Texas Tech grads who got degrees from there. How is that allowed in today's day and age? That makes no sense.
Nick, wasn't there a story we may have talked about where the judge had recused himself recently because they had bias towards towards somebody in the case?
Yes. I don't remember which case it was, but yes.
So then let me take it one step further, Nick, real quick.
Okay.
Out of the following things I'm going to read off here from Cranium on Tuesday, which one is worse? Brendan Sorsby gambling on his team to lose games, $90,000 in bets, $9,000 in total made, as opposed to Jim Harbaugh buying lunch for recruits during the COVID dead period, or Reggie Bush losing his Heisman and USC losing the 05 BCS national title because his parents profit off of a house while he gets a suit and tie for the Heisman Trophy, or the SMU death penalty case back in '87 involving booster-funded cash payroll system exposed after players were liquidated, or Oklahoma State's bureaucratic trauma involving the basketball team over the last 5 to 6 years, though, where they were given a postseason ban because a former assistant coach, Nick, took a bribe from an agent back in 2020-21, or Kevin Ollie not getting a $10 million buyout because Ray Allen gave a phone call to a recruit on the campus, or the Varsity Blues admission scandal. I think Brendan Sorsby, Nick, trumps any of these listed here with where it goes to directly impacting on-field play. It's not buying lunch for kids in Ann Arbor. It's not Reggie Bush's parents getting a house here in La Mesa, about 30 minutes from where I live. It's not about, the death penalty with SMU football, or about the assistant, or, the bribe being taken, 6 years ago by OSU's basketball team, or even Kevin Ollie, getting minor infractions because Ray Allen calls an illegal recruit, or gives a illegal phone call to, from Ray Allen. And also UConn would not have to pay him his $10 million buyout, or even parents who said that, hey, my kid's an athlete to get into SC and Yale and Stanford, and they weren't that way. I think Sorsby is a million times worse, Nick, than any of this crap that I read on Tuesday regarding other notable instances of college sports being somewhat up their ass.
See, I have no problem with what Harbaugh did for the recruits. Like, wouldn't you cater a lunch for people you're doing business with potentially?
Something.
Now, the whole thing with Reggie Bush, I think they overreacted slightly to that whole thing. Now, was it against the rules at the time? to accept anything at all whatsoever, yes, it was against the rules. Now, what I will say is that they shouldn't have taken the Heisman Trophy away. It should have just been a violation, not a.
It was. It was literally, Nick, like a death penalty, lethal injection for SC, because Reggie loses the Heisman. Then yes, he got it back. I'm aware of that.
Yeah, but it was after years of fighting.
USC had to vacate every win, and they also had to vacate that national championship. I even think Braden brought up other examples of, I think, Ohio State. Maybe while Maurice Clarett was there, they pawned off their national championship rings to go and get money for tattoos, and that was ruled a violation. There's other petty stuff out there that is nowhere close to this nonsense that we have happening in Lubbock, Texas. Do not at me.
Here's the problem. With all these NIL rules that we have in place now, when it comes to dealing with what's allowed, what are we allowed to take money from, what are we not allowed to accept money from, which endorsements are we allowed to take, which endorsements are we not allowed to take. In this case, this is just stupidity, in my opinion, when it comes to, the rules when you sign the document, when you walked in to play college football, that you can't bet. And tell his stupid lawyer to go take a walk, because he claims that the NCAA affected his mental health because
that's a lame excuse. I'm sorry. And also, by the way, Nick, and I should mention this too. Even when I work in minor league hockey, as I go on year 11 coming up here this October, I went to have lunch with my game day operations boss a couple of Fridays ago down at a little bar and grill down the hill from my house. And then we went to the team offices in Mission Valley. Let it be known that every single Gulls employee of the front office, Nick, had to sit through an hour-long course about that you will not bet on any sport, let alone hockey, when you work for the organization. They all had to print out and prove it on their cubicles that, so-and-so, fulfilled their obligations for, the AHL and NHL, betting course and, whatever. Like, they got their little certificate of completion. That right there is, should say something. And also, Nick, look at it. And even now, Nick, whenever you've watched college athletics this season, dating back to the football season, even now through the Women's College World Series, and now as they go to Omaha for the Baseball World Series, Nick, I could probably count on my hands that there's at least one don't bet on it PSA that is played every single college broadcast across every platform that there is out there. Now, mainly, yes, on ESPN, Nick, but I think, though, that is a thing. That now it's almost that in a way, it feels like it's almost in a way like hypocritical now that you'll have these, don't bet on an ads, though. But now what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Let a guy who wagered on college sports, though, to come back and play within your product.
This is Pete Rose. I'm going to say this over and over again, that the NCAA did the right thing by banning him for life, not being able to play. The lawyer found a loophole and got him back into college football. So the NCAA technically didn't do the wrong thing here. They followed the rules that were prim and proper for the league. And also, you have to give the lawyers some credit in some regard, because they found 4 judges that went to Texas Tech.
Oh, but wait, folks. Yeah. Oh, but wait, folks. There's more. There's more. Speaking of Texas Tech, though, folks, another massive bombshell dropped in the immediate wake, though, of Brendan Sorsby's injunction that TTU has aggressively put peer institutions and athletic conferences on notice. The Red Raiders will officially declare it would pursue swift multi-million-dollar legal action if rival schools or entire conferences try to skip scheduled contest to blackball tech programs, not just football, but across the entire athletic department, or exclude them completely from future competition over Brendan Sorsby's presence on the field. Nick, this could be a very much remarkably combative stance, though, for a school to take action against its own scheduling partners and conferences. Do you at all believe, though, if this threat, though, of litigation will force opposing teams to play ball or create a even deeper backroom freeze out of TTU athletics, though? Not just football, Nick, but as I said, though, on Tuesday, this could affect every single program on that campus in Lubbock, Texas.
It makes sense to me.
I mean, trying to is hard to do, Michael K. I'm sorry, but geez.
I mean, This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. So, remember how I said over the last week, I said that Texas Tech is backing someone who's breaking the law, essentially.
They are.
So now, on top of it, you're double downing. You're doubling down because you're saying, oh, well, if you're going to protest and be taken off our schedule, fine, I'll sue your ass for all this money. It's all about money with these colleges, people. It's not about integrity of the game at all. Now, let me be clear. I'm not naive. I know that this is a business and teams can't afford to lose money because that's how they stay in business. But to threaten the universities over your own starting quarterback breaking gambling laws, I think we're grasping at straws, as you would say, a little bit here.
So, Nick, per David Rumsey, TTU's AD, Kirby Hoycutt, released a lengthy statement earlier in the week, though, on Wednesday, so literally 24 hours ago, saying there was no guarantee Sorsby would return to the program after his 2-game suspension in September. So we're going to give him a 2-game one of these for what he did, and he's going to miss playing, Abilene Christian and Sam Houston State. Big freaking deal.
If we keeping a buck right now, we ass.
Furthermore, that Mr. Hoycutt says what happens after that will depend in no small part on how his recovery continues to progress. Don't give me that shit.
Are you serious? Hold on. Are you serious? You're saying that he might not return after a 2-game suspension? You're the guys that filed the appeal for him to come back.
Houston is the first Big 12 opponent for the Red Raiders schedule in Lubbock on September 18th, a Friday night game scheduled to air on Fox in primetime. Team head coach Joey McGuire said on Tuesday that Sorsby actually playing in that Week 3 game, no matter his eligibility, is quote-unquote still a stretch.
Okay, I'm becoming lost in this whole thing. They're all acting diplomatic. There's no diplomacy here.
There isn't.
It's either he did it or he didn't do it. And in this case, he did it.
There's no way around it. Furthermore, that the Red Raiders' remaining Big 12 opponents will include Colorado, ASU, Cincinnati, his former employer, U of A, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, Baylor, and, of course, TCU. The 15 athletic directors in the Big 12, excluding Mr. Hoycutt, met on Monday night, Nick, to discuss and vent about the Sorsby situation, with more meetings planned and expected to come. The Sorsby decision also came up multiple times during a Senate Commerce Commission committee roundtable on the future of college sports on Wednesday. It has also been the subject of private conversations across the U.S. Congress back in Washington, D.C. So, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? It's a giant circus. All because of Brendan Sorsby.
And you know what's sad, though, and I said this on Tuesday, and again, I don't care if I got ticked off at this stuff again. Like I said, I bring everything from my career into into my professional experience here on the network.
Yeah.
The simple fact that now it's not just the Big 12 having meetings, Nick. We've heard rumblings, though, from FOS. We've heard Big 12. We've heard ACC, the Big 10. The SEC even is trying in a way to clamp down on this whole entire ordeal. That now, Nick, this will bleed through
to other sports.
And affect every other sport that I care about, that I know I get so much flack for on this network and from other people who've worked here and other platforms, that they don't care for the non-revenue sports. Well, I do, because that's how I make my bread and butter every season. That now you're going to be holding other teams hostage on the Lubbock County, or the Lubbock campus, I should say, involving, basketball. You're going to be holding, soccer teams back. Everyone's going to be in a way underneath the microscope now. All because of the ruling, though, involving the quarterback of the football team, which, again, is just not right.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts. This is cut and dry as it is. He came out and admitted he bet against Indiana while sitting redshirting. He admitted to making bets while on Texas Tech. He admitted to the FanDuel account. He admitted to the $90,000 in bets. He admitted to making 4,500 bets.
I mean, how is that not guilty on every count that could be put against him in a court of law?
He went to a game.
Again, like I said, though, on Tuesday, does it go football, break the law, faith, family down there, or what the hell is it?
I don't know anymore, to be honest. But he also, first of all, if you're so innocent or you should be given an injunction. Why did you have to go? Why did you say you had to go to a gambling addiction house then?
For all of 35 days.
Well, throw the days out for a second. My point is, if you want the injunction so bad because you're trying to prove that you're innocent, why did you admit in that stupid PR statement that you had to go to a gambling addiction house? That means you did something, right?
Yeah, I mean, you would think, right?
So all of a sudden, the lawyer is turning it back around and say, "Oh, well, the NCAA is affecting his mental health, and that's not right, and that's why we're fighting for the injunction." And like my head is spinning from this whole matter because the lawyer is basically getting off on technicalities, right? Is that where we're at this point?
Yes.
And I implore you to go read Dan Wetzel's story on ESPN about the injunction because I think he did a really good job on this. But I just find it hilarious that, and there's some statements here from Texas Tech Athletic Director Kirby Hoke, saying that the integrity of sports matters. So does the integrity of how we treat a 22-year-old who sought help and entered residential treatment and is working every day toward recovery. For what? Really? Also, there's another quote here. We owe it to the young man, Cody Campbell, chair of Texas Tech's Board of Regents, a former Red Raiders football player and a billionaire.
He's the guy that's been having all those PSAs about like the Protect College Sports Act or whatever it was, because I think they all got, I think all the ads got pulled off of certain broadcasts during the course of the season.
Well, yeah, because the NCAA didn't like them, I don't think. He also said, quote, I hope every player who sees a school cast the player aside when it becomes inconvenient from public relations standpoint remembers this. Okay, how many times do I have to say this? Are people in Texas living in their own bubble? What do you mean?
Sadly, they do.
What do you mean they're casting their own player aside? He broke the rules. He bet on his own team.
And he's the same guy who also had to give back $1 million to Cincinnati football.
But I'm having an issue here with people down in Texas and at Texas Tech. Now, I understand maybe that billionaire, he probably has a lot of money into Texas Tech, so he's probably a little pissed off that Sorsby is not there, because I guarantee you that's where the NIL money was coming from. But I think you're going to get that money back because he's not eligible for the NIL anymore. But this is unbelievable how naive and ignorant people are acting in this. And he bet on his own team. That should be it right there. You broke the rules.
Hey, by the way, Nick, I just pulled up, actually, speaking of our upcoming guest, Crissy Froyd, she actually wrote an article for Heavy.com revolving around Craig Carden, who made some remarks about Brendan Sorsby over the course of the last couple of days. Carden tied in his own personal issues with gambling into the Sorsby story in some capacity.
I'm assuming she probably wrote that it was hypocrisy that he was talking about him.
Actually, no, it does not look like it. Not at all, it looks like, from what I've seen so far.
Because that would be a little bit of hypocrisy if he was talking about someone else's gambling issues when he had his own that got him arrested.
Yeah.
But you know what? And I say this a million times, and I get yelled at by people on this network here for months, where I've said we need to remove the sports books from being in bed with the leagues. That's a big problem. And until we figure out that problem, you're going to have more athletes that are going to break the rules when it comes to betting on their own team because they have insider information. They can get away with it.
As we've seen already with Terry Rozier, who got a couple of bribery charges tacked on, as we said last Wednesday.
I don't know if you heard me towards the end of MTGP. I talked about how the NCAA has sportsbook technology.
Right.
And not to catch people. This is their own. So here it is. NCAA sportsbook technology centers on official data partnerships and robust integrity monitoring tools rather than on campus betting kiosks. The NCAA has an exclusive partnership with Genius Sports to distribute official NCAA statistics and data to regulated sports books, powering real-time in-game betting. I'm sorry, that's a little hypocrisy, no?
Yeah, it is, especially when you can get tipped off, like we were saying.
It also says, as part of their data sharing concessions, the NCAA mandates that participating sports books ban high-risk athlete-specific prop bets. But that's been around for years.
Yeah.
You can't make prop bets on like over-under yards or
and before we move on, Nick, to another gambling story in a different capacity, though, I believe that we even remember talking about that Charlie Baker even came out and said during March Madness, no more player prop bets. Like, these have to come off the boards at these sports books, or we're going to file some kind of injunction against this whole thing.
The injunction is stupid. It's all technicalities. It's all politicking, and that's it. There's really no black or it's black and white. That's it. There's no purple, green, orange, yellow, red. This is not colors of the rainbow here, people. It's you broke everything, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, so we'll see what happens, though. But, Nick, though, on the flip side, though, of gambling, this story, though, Nick, we talked a little bit about Unbiased Ev from Barstool Sports, though, and people that were noticing that he had been away for a while, but popular Barstool Sports personality Unbiased Ev issued a raw public life update to his fans, admitting to a severe, debilitating sports gambling addiction that required a extended stay and stint in a professional rehab facility. Big Ev expressed profound remorse for past negativity, thanked his core circle, and expressed deep gratitude that Barstool Sports chose to retain him on staff as he navigates his long-term recovery. Nick, we have already talked for over 35 minutes on the show today about the corporate side of sports books, but as digital media companies increasingly blur the lines between content creation and gambling promotion, what kind of safety nets or responsibility do these networks owe their own talent when they develop severe addictions while still on the job?
Okay, so there's a lot of problems with this. So there was, when we did the story originally, there was reports that he was taking money from people, making the bets, or he would ask people to make bets for him because he was looking at other books, which, by the way, is kind of a weird violation because they work with DraftKings and they have deals with Barstool has deals with DraftKings. But at the same time, he wasn't paying the bookies back that the people were laying money out for. And that led to people having to pay out of their own pocket. And it led to a gambling. That's like a no-no in gambling. Like, first of all, if I've learned anything, and I've never done this before, what I'm about to say, but never, if someone comes up to you and says, will you make this bet for me? The answer is no. You tell them no. Because you don't know if you're going to get that money back. And then you're on the hook for paying that bet off if that person never returns.
Nick, I think back to the small market edition episode I did about Junior Seau on the 14th anniversary, I think, of his passing back in May of this year. And, Jim Trotter, Nick, was part of the 30 for 30 about Junior's life, career, and, of course, how he, fell off the face of the earth, though. And I think I mentioned it in the episode that Jim had documented on the 30 for 30 that after Junior had gone through some domestic violence issues after he retired and what have you, he would take himself, or friends would take him to Vegas. And Trotter would observe him, from afar, going to the high stakes room of the Bellagio, Caesar's Palace, the Luxor, you name it, all the big casinos in Vegas. He would sit at the blackjack table in the high stakes room or high roller room, Nick, and play the full table, and he would go up $8 million. Then in one hand, he would get down $4 million. And before Junior had committed suicide, one of the casinos called in a marker for, I think, $1.1 million. And Junior couldn't pay it. And I remember documenting, too, that, there was an interview done with Betty Hoffman, who had been the longtime treasurer of the Junior Seau Foundation, that, Gina would be in Vegas calling her at like 2:00 in the morning because, hey, I lost all the money. Can you wire me something? And she would say, Gina, it's 2:00 in the morning. I can't do anything about this. And that in a way, Nick, was like the slow downfall of Gina Ursao. That, the drinking, the domestic violence issues, again, all because of the CTE issues, though. But away, though, from the Sorsby circus, this one here, I applaud Unbiased Ev, though, Nick. Now, again, was it the wrong way to go about how you gamble, though, with, as you were saying, though, like going through a third party? We had Scott Farrell on the show a long time ago. And he
who
said,
I love, by the way.
Yeah, Scott was great. Though I may have looked traumatized on the show, but believe me, I was having a great time having him on the show because he was awesome. But that his son happens to go to San Diego State University.
Yes.
But again, Nick, California, as I said, you say the word gambling out here, it's like you're going to be sent to San Quentin for there to be a death sentence. Because exactly. And he said that his son kind of had like the bookie or the illegal thing, though. That, though, is like you said, though, that's what, though, does scare me sometimes, though, about, where gambling still kind of is, though, on like the shady parts of town and, a little bit, what have you, like those dark alleys in Hell's Kitchen or a dark alley in downtown by Petco Park, for example. But certainly, I'm glad that Ev did what he had to do. And I also think, though, Nick, I think I would applaud Barstool, though, for not cutting the cord with him because of him having to seek help. And I would hope that would happen, that would have happened, though, if that was him going in for, smoking or tobacco or alcohol addiction, that they would be in his corner in a way. Because I know it's tough that, that we're not keen on second chances nowadays in this country because, hey, you're guilty till you're proven innocent now. It's not the other way around.
Well,
that
I want to say one thing and I'll let you finish that point is I think it depends on how bad the first problem was if you get a second chance.
Yeah.
I think. Like, if you commit a crime, I think that's a different situation than I made a small mistake. I get a second chance, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, Awful Announcing at the end of their article made a really good point on his return. And they said he was on a show called Pick Central on Barstool. What do you think Pick Central is?
All about betting.
It's all making picks for gambling.
Yeah.
So they wrote, and I thought this was brilliant by Awful Announcing. What the path back to Pick Central looks like for someone who just publicly admitted to a gambling addiction while employed at a gambling show on a gambling network partnered with a legal sports book. That's brilliant. I mean, I think Awful Announcing hit that one to a T, right?
They did.
How are you supposed to... Barstool, the biggest sponsor is what? DraftKings.
I was going to say DraftKings, yes.
So he was part of all the gambling content, and he would travel with the college football show. What do you think part of the college football pregame shows was? Gambling.
Mm-hmm.
So how the hell does he come back after he went to a supposed gambling rehab?
Right.
Again, it's debatable if he went for long enough, like we said in the last thing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you take part in gambling content again? But you can't support it personally.
Right.
He can't do gambling content again, right?
No way. I mean, if he did, then I would be a little bit upset at Barstool for allowing him to go back to doing that after he just kicked the addiction down the, kicked that can down the road.
Now, my question is, can you do it almost like what Craig Carden does on his show now? He has no problems with them running the gambling ads and all that stuff during the show, but he made it clear when he came back, which I applaud him for the first time ever. He said, you could do all this stuff, I just can't take part in it.
Which, Nick, went to a point that we had long discussed here when we were running hockey content briefly, and we had the Novig partnership about how, like, I really wasn't going to be able to do a whole lot of content for that segment of the program.
I mean, that's a little bit different just because you had a different situation involved, a normal situation involved in that. That's a little different. You weren't doing shady things behind the table like Big Ev was doing, taking money. Yeah.
Not much of like big sports business or media news, though, but per Greg Wyshynski of ESPN.com for the NHL, Hurricanes likely rolling out Brandon Bussey for Game 5 over Freddie Anderson for the second game in a row tonight.
I heard this was a big thing because they were saying that they rolled out the other goalie, had a decent game, but they were saying to go back, right? Because they really want to make sure they win the series.
There was a chance, but the way that Brandon played, though, in Game 4 and getting the series back to Carolina tied at 2 and not behind 3-1 was critical. So, again, Nick, I always say it, though, but you gotta roll with the hot goalie, and right now that's Brandon Bussey for Carolina.
Makes sense to me. I mean, it's been a good series. It's been a really good series. And I think the Stanley Cup has been way better than the NBA Finals by far. More entertaining. Two overtime games.
I was going to say, I'm biased towards the NHL, so of course I'm going to say yes.
Right, but that's coming from me who can watch NBA for hours. Like, 2 overtime games, 3 goals in 39 seconds, by the way. Vegas up 4-0. The Canes come back and tie it at 4. Was that it? That was one of the games they forced overtime in, right?
Yeah, that was the game that they were down 4-0. They came back and tied the game. They lost in double OT.
I mean, overtime hockey in the biggest games of the year, I sign up for 10 out of 10. But just to finish the situation with Big Ev, there's no way he can do gambling content. No way. And I understand, like, he said that Portnoy is behind him and all that stuff, but what is his ROI to the company, his return on investment to Barstool if he can't do the gambling content? And is he going to do a sports show? I don't know if that really fully fits the brand.
Right.
I mean, could they run gambling ads and have him do the reads and all that stuff? But is that a disservice as a recovering gambling addict?
Yeah, I mean, is it more, I hate to say, Nick, is it more of a disservice, or is it in a way almost like borderline public embarrassment or shaming because he went to rehab for gambling and he's doing gambling content, like making a reader for that?
I don't know. That's kind of a catch-22 in that regard, where he needs to decide also if he can still be at Barstool. But apparently he said that if they're backing me, he sounds like he's coming back. But I don't think it would be very smart to put him on Pick Central right after.
No way.
That show is literally gambling lines for an hour straight. It's all about units and all that stuff. Like, I could see him doing the college football pregame show because that's more of just entertaining a live crowd and stuff. And maybe you just leave all the gambling to the other people, maybe at that point, and you just become part of the ensemble, part of the crowd, or part of the people that are hosting the show.
There's got to be a right way to go about this, and I don't think having him doing any content or being on that program would be. I think you're right. That's a major disservice that happens, honestly.
But think about what we've discussed at this network, and like we've seen at other networks. What is the biggest percentage of sponsors come from for this type of content?
Gambling and alcohol, usually.
Well, put alcohol to the side for a second. But sports books.
Yes. Gambling, yes.
That is the biggest. If you go and look at every sports network, every digital sports show, all these podcasts we're doing, when we get to a monetization point, what do you think one of the first things is going to come by eventually when we have that value ad return? It's probably going to be a sports book.
Yeah.
But I will always make it clear. Tom makes it clear during Fight IQ at the beginning of every show.
And when we had the Novik deal, if you've been with us for the past year plus or longer, you know that when we would make any kind of predictions or plays, I'll use the California education word of plays, not bets, but plays during the course of like the WNBA finals or an NBA doubleheader that we were doing back on Playback, we would have the disclaimer that this is for entertainment purposes only. We're not responsible for if you win or lose. If you have a gambling problem, call the 800 number right now and, don't hold our feet to the fire.
So Tom does a live disclaimer for himself before he starts the show. And on UW, because you do all the VO stuff for the show. You put a disclaimer in right before the intro plays. We have to, because you don't want someone to say, "Oh, I watched your show and I made $1 million bet and it's all your fault and blah, 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 blah."
And I'm going to sue your ass for it.
That's why you see disclaimers on gambling shows. You have to. You have to. I mean, if you didn't, you could lose your whole business if you didn't say, "Well, these bets are for entertainment purposes only," even though we know on some of those gambling networks they make those bets. Yes.
Very minor again, but with us being about 10 minutes away from the top of the hour, which will kick off the FIFA World Cup. Nick, I think we said this on Tuesday on Cranium. We have confirmation from Austin Karp of SBJ. Fox will deploy full-screen commercials and promos during the scheduled 25-minute the 25-minute mark hydration breaks for the World Cup matches on Fox and FS1. So minute 25 and minutes... quick math, minute 70, I think, or minute 60, that they'll be having hydration breaks for both halves of the game.
So they're going to run commercial spots, you're saying? They're not going to...
Per Austin Karp of Sports Business Journal, that Fox will deploy some full-screen commercials and promos during the hydration breaks while using their editorial judgment to determine when to continue game coverage. When staying on the field, Fox could also opt to do a split screen between an on-field camera and a camera for their commentators in the booth while running these ads. Though, of course, Nick, as we all know very well, there's no commercial breaks in soccer. If there are commercial breaks, it's just a little advertisement next to the score bug in the top left corner of the screen.
I don't love that fully, to be honest. I think they should have done like a sponsored studio segment. You're telling me they couldn't find a way to get a sponsored segment?
I'm sure the BBC is going to do that because they don't want to Americanize the product for the true football fans back in Europe.
Well, also, they're not going to carry that halftime show,
which is at the World Cup final July 19th.
Which I don't know how I feel about that, but I understand. I think they're going to do actual football analysis,
they will
soccer
be, yes.
analysis, which I can't fault them. That's totally fine. But I think they should have studio, kind of like what they do with the NFL on Sunday. Sometimes, like where they go back into studio for scoring update, or you're telling me they can't have 2 or 3 people sitting in a studio and get a studio sponsor. It can't be that hard.
I wonder who's sponsored. Let me go and check Twitter and see if they have a sponsor for their pregame coverage right now from Mexico City, because the kickoff is about in roughly 8 minutes away from Mexico City at Estadio Azteca, with Mexico taking on South Africa. Can already report, by the way, that Shakira did perform at kickoff day, or at the opening salvo for the first performance of the year. And by the way, it is sold out down at Estadio Azteca, and it looks really, really hot down there. So it's going to be, which by the way, that is why that they are going the route, Nick, of the water breaks at minute 25 and at minutes 50 or 70 or 60. Because, I mean, you literally have teams coming over like New Zealand, for example. We asked them yesterday, right now it's wintertime down below the equator down in New Zealand. And they were very much, for them, for their first practice on Wednesday, they looked like they were pretty adopted to the heat already. England, Nick, has had a hell of a time, though, getting prepped for their tournament starting up in about a week. But they're down in Florida, Nick, and they're dealing with both the rain and the humidity down in Florida, and they have not been adjusting properly right now. So this is why, by the way, that they're doing hydration breaks across at least in Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. because of the weather and where certain countries are coming from. They're not fully adopted to summertime just yet.
So I just looked up the FIFA partners, and so they have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. They have 3 tiers of sponsors. And in the top level, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You're telling me one of those couldn't support a hydration break to the studio?
Let me go and check the ETP Twitter account, because I think I shared a... did I not share it? Maybe I didn't share it. Hang on. Let me go and check Fox Sports real quick, or Fox Soccer real quick before we get to the top of the hour.
Oh, it says official pregame show and broadcast sponsors vary by network and region. So major brands running pregame studio coverage and related campaigns across networks like Fox, Telemundo, and international broadcasters include Coca-Cola, Unilever, which is Dove, Lay's, AB InBev, Bank of America, Mahindra, and Apple.
So it looks like from some of the videos we've seen, at least that I've seen on Twitter from Fox Soccer, there. By the way, Fox is actually at SoFi Stadium getting ready for Team USA's Game 1 on Friday against Paraguay. So it's Rebecca Lowe, Dari Henry, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and of course Alexi Lawless. Their desk right now, Nick, at least within the last 45 minutes, was sponsored by Verizon Wireless.
So you're telling me they can't find a way to do a sponsored studio segment instead of running full commercials? Oh, God.
With that, Nick, before we get to the top of the hour here, because I have impending doom on my side here in about 5 to 10 minutes, though, let's get quickly to a very quick, but loaded ETB Weekly update. I say that because I have been informed the power is going out in about 5 to 10 minutes.
Well, they say that, but you don't know fully.
We'll see, because they said that last time and it didn't go off until like 20 minutes later. But with that, though, Nick, massive weekend coming up, though. Great debut of ETP on Wednesday, of course. A lot of great stuff, though, via Substack, via Twitter and IG for the open practice with the all-whites yesterday at USD. And so much more coming down the pipeline. Nick, where do we start?
Yeah, ETP was great yesterday. That was the kickoff show. The overview was in about an hour and a half. You guys went yesterday. You and Trevor Williams. And then what do we have coming up? We have UFC Freedom 250 stuff coming up over the weekend. And we have a ton of stuff coming up. And then Lounge on Sunday. But yeah, so ETB and UFC Freedom 250. And also we have Tough Enough programming, the Ultimate Fighter programming coming up. So don't miss that on Saturday, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern time with Tom Levano with Zambando across our network platforms. What else do we have coming up? Sunday, also Zan Ziegler Part 2. Zan will do a lead into UFC Freedom 250. So we have plenty of stuff coming up for that. And then what else do we have? Oh, right. You and Trevor are going to do a recap of the U.S. men's national team matches against Paraguay. You'll do a stream on Friday after the match, so don't miss that. It'll be around, 11:15, 11:30 p.m. Eastern?
The kickoff time's 9 o'clock Eastern, so it'll be in that time frame, just like the NBA Finals coverage that we've had over the past couple of days with Nick and Johnny.
Yeah, so a lot coming up. Make sure you follow our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network, and you'll find out more. Subscribe, hit the notification so you know everything that's going on. All right, should we introduce the guest?
Yeah, let's hope that the power stays on here for just a little bit longer here. But of course, folks, obviously we have been doing our best to bring you the coverage of the ongoing scandal involving both Diana Rossini and also with Mike Vrabel as well, and what have you, as time has gone on, though. And we have secured, though, a chance to meet with one of the writers, though, who I think has been doing their best to get the truth out there in their own way, shape, form, or size. A warm welcome today to the 2PR this afternoon, to Crissy Froyd, who is joining us today here this afternoon. Again, we're writing now for theheavy.com, covering all things college football and, of course, the NFL. Crissy, thanks for taking the time out of the day here, and welcome to the show. And once again, thanks for being here. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So I guess where I want to start with this, Crissy, is when you talked about Diana Rossini, you exposed what was going on down the pike. What was kind of the thought process? Because I didn't really see anyone else really going wild, crazy. You're the first opinion I really saw out there really talking about this. So can you just talk about the process of, I guess, exposing the information?
I wouldn't call it an accident, but I'll tell you right now that whenever I tweeted that, I thought there were other people, or that there were going to be other people. And I didn't even realize that until, it went viral. I didn't expect it to go viral. I was like, this is going to get like 150 likes. Not that I did it for that reason. But when I woke up and there were like 13,000, I was like, goodness. And there were like 2 articles about it. And then the next day I had no less than 50 interview requests, and it was all over the news.
Right.
And people have said that I was clout chasing and stuff. Like, I've been on ESPN several times. Mike Leach is my mentor. I'm already very established. That was not about that. So basically the process is that I thought that other people had already spoken out or would speak out. And just because the biggest thing is that I've known about it for so long, and so has everyone else. So now that it's out and now that she's resigned, surely everybody else is going to say something about it. And surprisingly, they didn't. But I guess, I mean, like I said, someone proposed her to be my mentor one time. I'm happy I said no, because I mean, and some of it was just the anger and relief at the same time of, can you imagine if I had done that? Like, I would have that connotation forever and I'd never be able to get away from it. It would be unfair to me. No one would ever take me. It would be worse than what ultimately happened to me.
Crissy, I think the one thing that Nick and I talked about, and we've covered the story to a very long extent, though, we mentally been kind of burned out by the story, what have you, and that's besides the point, though. But I recall, though, that Nick and I talked about Nancy Armour, who I think very well respected USA Today sports writer, I think, wrote an article, I think, basically trying to pull everybody into the same boat when it comes to, maybe some stuff happens behind closed doors involving a reporter and a coach, perhaps, as I think you may have documented maybe in one of your stories, or just across the board, though, across media outlets that has been talked about. Crissy, would you go as far as to say, though, that maybe Nancy Armour is right, though, in some capacity with what she had written, that maybe this does group everybody in that inner circle, that if it's one person doing it, then maybe that 6, 7, 8, 10, 100 other reporters doing the same exact stuff?
Yeah, there are several other reporters that are doing the same thing. So I think that she was right in that. However, it really took me aback the way that they let me go over what I said on my social media, which was slightly aggressive, but nothing that anyone else was not saying. I just happen to have credibility and people think that I know things, which I do. So that makes me stand out from the average Twitter user or a reporter who's just getting started or someone who doesn't have a lot of followers, things like that. But they put that, and it was a little bit more polite than what I said, but they put that in print. And I was told whenever they were going through the process of figuring out what they were going to do with me, they were trying to figure out if my tweet would uphold, it was some combination of that word, in a USA Today article. And I was like, what? So I'm an independent contractor. Right. You forgot to renew my contract after 2024. So we'll see how the law looks at that here coming up soon, if you catch my drift.
Right.
And it's on my social media. It's not in print, and I don't work for you. So what does that have to do with upholding in one of your articles? And by the way, I never signed code of ethics, never signed social media policy. You're not allowed to even do that to an independent contractor. As a matter of fact, someone from the college side of USA Today was telling me several years ago that there was this big to do because they were trying to impose that upon independent contractors, and they stopped because there was some sort of a legal issue, is what I was told anyway. So that's just all of that put together is very curious. And some people have said on my profile, it says something about like all of our reporters uphold blah, 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 blah. I've never seen that before. I did not give them permission to put that on my profile, nor did I ever acknowledge it. And I've actually never read it because I am not required to read it. And I do not work for them, nor have I ever.
I guess the question I have is, when you put out certain things on social media, whether just your individual social, forget USA Today or any other platform, did you think that maybe it was a little over the top-ish, maybe what you put out on social media as the potential as the employer, or in the sense you being a freelancer for USA Today? Maybe they were thinking it's a little risky, maybe what I put out there. Maybe they thought it was a little dangerous, possibly. I'm just asking in a curious sense.
Yeah, it doesn't involve them. That's all I can say.
But what about from your personal social media? Didn't you think it was a risk that they could have released you from the freelancing contract or whatever agreement you signed because of some of the potential of the comment?
I don't know. All I can say is that nobody else has cared. From an employment perspective, no one else has cared.
Again, folks, Crissy Froyd again, college football, college sports, NFL writer from theheavy.com, joins us today on Press Row. Crissy, again, stepping away from, USA Today, may have been some kind of a big move, though. But maybe from your perspective on things, though, with how the industry has gone, though, how much maybe did the shifting boundaries maybe of editorial around how breaking NFL insider news is now validated and managed factor into maybe your exit from the publication to move on to bigger and better things?
I'm sorry, can you rephrase the question? I'm not quite sure that I understand what you're asking.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I mean, so maybe were there any perhaps, maybe clashes between like the editorial staff of USA Today and yourself with maybe how you would go about reporting on certain things involving the NFL or college football that maybe they didn't like that went to like their standards of editorial journalism?
I mean, I guess you could argue that, but I mean, I'd also like you to go back through what every freelancer has posted on their social media and even some of the employees. You'll find things that are very similar.
Good to know.
So I guess and I'm trying to think how to ask this in a certain way. I watched your interview with Howard Eskin, by the way, which I thought was good. But I guess you were talking a little bit in code. At least that's what it seemed to me when you were talking about other reporters, other female reporters. So I guess my question is, you were willing to expose Diana Rossini in certain ways, but how come when Howard asked you the question about other reporters, you were kind of talking around it in code?
Part of it's a legality issue. Part of it's the fact that I have spoken up enough and I've given enough information. And if no one else is going to do it to the degree that I am, there's some people that are like kind of doing it, but not really. I'm not going to go off and do that by myself. There's no reason why I should have to do that by myself. And if there's no one else who's going to do it at the same time, why should I take the brunt of whatever backlash there's going to be? Is for your sake? No.
But okay, then why mention that the reporter started with a J?
Because people have asked me to drop names and stuff like that, and that's the most that I could give you. So I followed through on that to the best of my ability without getting myself into hot water, potentially legally, and then without starting something else without the support of others.
Okay. Crissy, I think the other thing that, Nick and I have racked our brains about is also, the instant fallout, though, of, from Diana's perspective, though, again, the resignation letter. But also, I think the other thing, though, is that we're kind of waiting for this other shoe to fall at some point revolving around Mike Vrabel, where, again, Mike stepped away from day 3 of the NFL draft. I believe there was a report today put out that the family was seen together after one of their sons got engaged, I want to say. Crissy, is there going to be any more fallout from your perspective? We already know about what happened with Diana, but anything maybe in your mind happens to Mike Vrabel? I mean, I'm of the belief that something very small probably comes out of it. Nick's of the same belief. But what do you think, though, from your perspective about the other shoe falling in this case?
I would say that I believe he's much more insulated and protected than she ever was. And because the two situations are a little bit different between what's professional and what's moral. And for him, I kind of feel like with the way that the NFL works and stuff, unless they find tampering, of course, it's more of the moral perspective for him and more of the this is what your contract says. This is the journalistic code of ethics, which all that stuff she did have to sign. So it's a little bit different. And just in a situation like this, if he's person A and she's person B and we take names out, person B is going to get a lot more punishment and a lot more fallout. But it's all going to depend on what they find in that investigation. I mean, if they find all sorts of stuff and they find tampering and all sorts of just other things that go against NFL rules, then yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot more left for him for sure.
So I know you mentioned that you said there's possibly, or I think you said there's other coaches involved between the NFL and college football. Again, throw the names aside because I know you're not going to mention them anyway. Is it a lot? Is it a lot of names? Is it a lot of is there a whole line of coaches possibly that are involved in this situation or no? Yes,
in this particular situation and in others for sure. And there are a particular 3 to 5 that are heavily involved in this pretty much all the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just when you think you know everything. I would say as well, though, Crissy, maybe away from this case real quick. I know that, we've been very much, following Brendan Sorsby's investigation. Again, we had the very big gavel get dropped, though, over the course of the week involving the injunction. Now the rumblings of all these emergency meetings between all these conferences, the Attorney General's office now firing back at all of those. Crissy, can you probably add a bit of an update maybe on where this whole thing is going? Because, we spent the first hour of our show today talking about this whole thing. And I even, printed out the bylaw 10.3. I work in college sports, by the way. I work at the University of San Diego here. I worked in Division II and D1 athletics. But Crissy, how do you view this story, though? Because, I mean, this could be sending off a massive chain reaction across not just Red Raider football, but I mean, we're talking about maybe the whole athletic program, though, if teams do maybe pull them off the schedule. But what can you tell us about this whole thing?
Oh yeah, it's certainly easy to get bogged down in all the legal terminology and go through what all that means and what overrides this and what overrides that. I think that to the casual college sports fan has their heads spinning, and even takes me a little while to wrap my head around to make sure that we're reporting correctly. Because if you mess that up, that is way worse than saying something about Diana Rossini, and anybody's going to have to kick you out of the door and not get sued.
Right.
But yeah, the thing that you say about the massive chain reaction, this is going to be just like Josh Pate said. He compared the NCAA to a poodle that was acting like a Doberman. And we're going to find out, do they lean more into Doberman and figure out how to become Chief Doberman? But I think the NCAA...
Well, I was going to say, in my case, it's a French bulldog acting like a Doberman.
I was looking... I'm sorry, I've been looking at the camera because that's what I've been taught to do on TV. But yeah.
Yeah.
Good dog. But yeah, I mean, I think between this case and some others, there's been other like small build up, like the transfer portal thing. I feel like the NCAA kind of gave in, so when it comes to that, it's like it's been this steady small thing, and then this is like the big boom. Mm-hmm. So I think this is a very pivotal moment where we're going to see schools and programs kind of be able to do what they want and override the NCAA. And I'm curious, in the next 5 to 10 years, does the NCAA even stand for anything other than like 4 letters?
And I've wondered about the same thing, Crissy, because, locally here in San Diego where I live, my conference is losing Gonzaga. They're going to the Pac-12. San Diego State and like 4 other schools left the Mountain West. That's a whole nother legal case going on that I don't think is going to be resolved anytime soon with like the poaching fees. They added Grand Canyon, a GCU in 1 year early that really ticked off everybody. They try to say that when you left that you gave up your voting power. I mean, I don't know, though, Crissy, if we could be in a more volatile state right now of college athletics when it comes to realignment, when it comes to the portal, when it comes to NIL, Brendan Sorsby's issues that, there's the cascading effect, I think, personally, is only going to get worse, as you were saying. Oh, yeah.
I mean, we have the SEC basically it's like civil war, like trying to secede. And then,
oh, yeah, that's like, talked about for who knows how long.
And I would say in their conference, like, go ahead and leave. And then the other people are like, fine, we'll play without you. And then both sides are like, we'll be so much better without you. Watch what happens when we're without you. And then, like you said, all the different changes in the conferences and the NIL, who has the most money to give, like, especially like with what we saw happen with Colorado, like completely different program. I went out to Jackson State when Deion Sanders was there. I was invited out there. And I remember sitting at a picnic table with Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. And Shedeur goes, that's the guy we just gave $1 million to. Shedeur was very, very humble and quiet at that time. He became a totally different character at Colorado.
Oh, for sure.
So I want to go back slightly. So you said you got into the industry, what'd you say, 16? I heard you say, or you started going out reporting at 16? Like you were talking to coaches and doing all that stuff. I guess what I want to know is, what advice would you give to people who are getting into the industry at that young of age, for women mostly at that age, how to deal with that type of situation, or being around coaches, being around executives, being around people, players that have a ton of power in that regard. And sometimes they kind of mistake their power for different situations. What advice would you give those types of people that want to get in the business?
Be careful and find respectable people. And also an issue that I had, which I struggle looking back on now, if I should have done something different, is I looked older than I was, and that's not an excuse for what some of these players did. Some of them were on the Tennessee Titans that would like send me explicit photos without me asking for that. And at the time I was like 15. So stuff like that can happen to you. And I wish I would have reported it, but I mean, I didn't know what to do. I was just getting involved in the industry. And frankly, I was kind of scared and didn't know who to say something like that to. But I would say if something happens to you, ignore it on your own, report it to the proper sources, probably the SID or something like that. And don't give in to stuff like that. There are very good people like Mike Leach, nothing going on, believe me, nothing going on between myself and Mike Leach other than something professional. But building that relationship and all these air raid coaches and other guys that I've talked to, I mean, I learned that entire offense. I was in all the offensive meetings at Mississippi State, like basically like I was a part of the team. And so I built a very high status and became very respected for learning and go learn an offense. and build relationships the right way. And I think another thing too is that when you do that, I mean, every woman deserves to be respected, but whenever you really start making those connections and doing stuff like that, I mean, any coach that's going to ask you for sexual favors is probably going to be scared of a guy of Mike Leach's stature that does it the right way, and he hears that they're doing that. So I guess that's how I would put it.
I just want to follow up on one thing. Was it all football that you're dealing with in this situation for people that were doing these types of things, or was it other sports? I'm just curious in that regard. Was it other college sports? Was it other?
Yeah.
Was it just football?
Yeah, I can see why you asked that question, and I'll go ahead and answer it this way because I don't want to overstep into things that I wasn't involved in. I would say a little bit of baseball, but one thing about me is I've always been so football focused. I haven't really ventured into those worlds a lot. I've heard things about it. I would assume there's a decent chance that it goes on because, I mean, it's kind of like the same like status, different sport. But I will not, I only speak on things that I know to be true. So I don't want to imply or just go off the handle like, yeah, this happens in the NBA. I would not be shocked, but I can't say that for a fact.
Crissy, I was going to ask though, like, what made you gravitate to getting into the sports media industry? I grew up back in the, late 90s when the Padres were going to the World Series and the Chargers won the Super Bowl. Padre games on the radio, wanted to become a public address announcer, play-by-play guy. I write on the side nowadays here in town as well, along with doing work for minor league hockey and college sports. But what made you gravitate towards sports, but also sports media like you have done so well for your career?
Yeah, so I was in yearbook in high school. I actually didn't even like sports that much. I had an English teacher. I wrote 2 essays about a football game I've been to. He was like, you should actually pursue this. And then I kind of tried it and then fell in love with it. And my trajectory went very high. I mean, I was on ESPN and leading a USA Today site when I was 18 years old. I believe I'm the youngest person credentialed through the NFL. And if not, it would be a tie because they require you to be at least 18 to go out there. But I still show dogs. But I mean, I was very involved in dog shows. And it's weird because they have a breed standard. It's like the gait, the expression, the drive, the this, the that. And when you look at quarterback stuff, it's like mental processing, mechanics, velocity. So that kind of stuff interests me. And so it's the same thing. I have a degree in psychology and I studied psychology. And so there's all the different degrees of like the way they analyze this person and that person and serial killers and these things. So it's all the same. And I've done a lot of stories on Ted Bundy and know his defense lawyer. And that was another project that I had weirdly enough pursued over the summer that really freaked me out as I got deeper into it. But all those things go in the same vein, if that makes sense.
Looking at the industry and the way it's changing, a little bit away from writing, a little bit more digital, a lot more podcasting. What is the goal that you're working towards? Is it to continue to do writing or freelancing for all these sites? Is it to do your own stuff? Is it to do a podcast? Where do you see yourself kind of evolving in the industry?
Yeah, so I think there's been a big question as to like, is this who she is? Is she going to lean into this? I mean, I said what I had to say and didn't expect anything to happen. And I was just going to kind of roll on. And then USA Today decided they were going to have an issue with this, even though, I mean, I reported the Zach Arnett stuff about how he was abusing players and stuff like that. And I knew that. That's relatively similar to this, but it's on a much smaller scale. They didn't care about that. They didn't say anything about that. And I've had a few instances like that. So I was shocked. And then it's funny because in the email, they say it's because we don't want to be tied in the news cycle. And then they come out with that statement. It's contradictory. So which one is it? But I had to defend myself and had to respond. And that's why this has been such a bloodbath and why this has been ongoing is because they chose to make that mistake. And even Mike Florio said, and a lot of other people said, you're a weirdo for doing that. And if you look under the comment section, it's like they really thought they were doing something and they got spewed vitriol and profanity at, and nobody supported them because they look stupid. So anyway, some people have questioned, like, is that like who I am? That's not who I am. That was like literally a tweet that happened in a huge situation that blew up that I did not expect to speak on any further and didn't expect to have to speak on any further. I'm known for analytics, air raid offense, studying offenses. Paul Feinbaum called me the best quarterback analyst in America on national television. Those are the things that I am. So I am looking to do the same reporting I did on the NFL and college that I have always done, the same appearances that I've always done, and just kind of roll on. Now, the independent thing is becoming very common because there are so many networks that pay so horribly that people might be paying their light bill and the water bill and maybe their cell phone bill if they're lucky by the end of the month. And that's where full-time jobs are not abundant, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So a lot of the time you can make more money as an independent. Like Arif Hassan is making 6 figures a year with Wide Left, doing a phenomenal job after I don't want to say anything because I cannot remember if he left The Athletic or he got fired. I think it was the latter. I can't remember. But anyway, no, he's one of my good friends and he's doing a great job. Tyler Dunn doing a great job with that. There's a lot of people on Substack, and then there's like Beehive, Ghost, all that stuff. And these people are making all this money. They're building out staffs. And the other thing too is like, if worst case scenario had happened to me, or if I just chose to leave the traditional realm, after you've been in this for so long, everywhere will credential you so you can make your own money, you can do your own thing, and you can say what you want and not have a fear of getting an email from someone who decided to have a problem with it. And as far as that stuff goes, if they wanted to have a problem with it and I was aware of what I couldn't do, of course I would have followed it, sure. But I wasn't, and they need to have a certain level of consistency.
I just want to follow up on one thing. Do you think this was media censorship, what they did to you, or no?
I'm very curious as to what it was. And that's the thing, too, that I wanted to know is, did you notice it took them like 3 days to do this? There were like 2.5
days
on it. Yeah, like 2.5 million views on it by like the next morning. And I mean, when they get an email about something that, from what I've noticed, they're pretty quick. And if they had an issue with it, before they went through the process, they should be like, hey, delete that. Or, hey, we don't know what we're going to do, but hey, there's a problem with that. They saw it. There's no way they didn't see it. So why did it take you 3 days? I wish I knew the answer to your question, and I am hopefully on my way to finding out through other means.
Well, do you plan on fighting this? 'Cause I keep hearing that you mentioned it kind of in passing, like legally. Is that the plan? Is that what you're planning on doing? Or was that more of just a impasse as you're talking?
I wish I could answer you more directly. I'm so sorry. Basically, use your best judgment and watch what happens within the next 2 to 4 weeks, I'd estimate.
Okay. That's my answer.
We'll be ready for that. Crissy Froyd, thank you so much for the time. We really appreciate it. Where can people find your work, though, and find you on social media?
Yeah, heavy.com. There's a few other networks that I am currently in talks with that I hope to join. So I founded my own publications. One's called Ace 95 after the air raid offense. The other one is called On Paw because I used to work for the largest dog magazine in the world. I do a lot of different kinds of journalism, but I've been so busy with all this stuff that the website is built out for those, but there's nothing on it yet. So there's
yet. It's coming.
Yes, I want it to be perfect. So it'll be there. And then I know there's been a lot of questions about my next move, like professionally. So my next on-site coverage will be the Manning Passing Academy. And I'd like to make clear, I think there's some people that are like, oh, she's done forever. No, I still freelance for places. I still have standing. I still have TV appearances. I still have the ability to get in places. Quite frankly, I think what you're going to find is however long, I don't read any of the articles about me. There's like 5 every single day from what I heard. My friends like, look at this. And I'm like, I'm not looking at this and I don't want to hear about it. It will eventually, it'll probably rise and then fall and rise and then fall for a long time. And eventually it'll go away. But quite frankly, I'm ignoring it if I have anything else to report. And because people are like, oh, is she going to say something else? If I have anything verifiable, I report it as I find it. But one thing I want to make clear is I'm not going to be like, let me go pull a little paper out of a hat and see what lie I'm going to tell today. I've thought long and hard. And I mean, if we ever went to court, which they're not going to because they don't want the discovery, I could tell you each and every way that I found that out.
I guess the last thing out on the way out the door is when you saw your name popping up everywhere. I'm sure you saw it. It felt like hitting the lottery. You saw your name everywhere. It felt like at times. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Was it annoying? Was it?
Oh my gosh. It was surprising. I opened my email. I said, what the hell is this?
Yeah, I bet.
It was. And I mean, there were times that it was like, oh, this is like kind of fun. I've never been on Inside Edition before. E-News is talking about my boyfriend ex-boyfriend who never asked to be drug into this. We're in People magazine. We're in Page 6 the same way that literally Rossini and Vrabel are. It was just insane. I would say parts of it were exciting. There was kind of adrenaline because it was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. But for the most part, I would say that it was highly unpleasant and unexpected.
Fair. I get that, because I'm sure at one point you were just like, all right, I need this to like slow down a little bit. And
yeah, and then I started getting recognized in public, and I was like, I'm going to flee. I don't want anyone to know where I am.
Like public figure status at one point.
Yeah, because I was afraid that it was going to continue to blow up so much that I was going to go to Atlanta and there was going to be like a TMZ, Crissy Froyd has come out of her house. Because for a while, I don't think that's an exaggeration. I think it was trending that way.
Yeah.
Especially, and they were like, I could tell some of them were trying to find the most provocative pictures that they could use. I went to the mention of bikini, someone's probably going to take a picture of it. Be like, hey, page 6 and TMZ, you want to see this?
I guess, and I keep extending this, but the last thing I'll say is, what's the most ridiculous headline someone has either made up of you on this story? Because I'm sure every major publication has come up with something.
There are a lot, but the two are Crissy Froyd admits to sexual relations with a former college football player. Have you seen all the public record that he and I we went to the Senior Bowl together? So I'm not admitting to anything. And also that was a guy I was seeing. Like, have you ever seen someone, like dated them, and y'all had sexual relations? Collective gasp. Apparently that's never happened before. And then the other thing was that apparently whoever pulled this out of their ass, that I got Tommy Stevens kicked off the practice squad with the Saints. Why don't you go ask the Saints? What? Do you think that would have been reported on for him breaking COVID? No, I did not.
Oh my gosh.
And also you should not be writing articles off of a meme from college football transfer portal. No, that's not true. And it was so crazy. But now I'm like, I wonder if like guys, like just men in general, like on dating apps, they're like, she got a guy kicked off the practice squad, and then her like,
I'm sure they do,
on blast in People magazine. What's going to happen to me? And it was all totally unintentional on my end.
Oh man. Well, yeah.
You know what, Crissy, I wish you a bunch of success. I hope everything goes well for you. And thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right. Crissy Froyd, college football, NFL writer from theheavy.com. I mean, Nick, what else can we say, though? I think Crissy made a lot of good points, though, when it came to certain things, even with the Nancy Armour stories we talked about, though, very early on in the whole entire thing, though. But also, I think some great perspective, though, about where her thoughts on the Brendan Sorsby case, as we had, we've been talking about for the whole hour here before she came on today. Thank God the power held up, by the way, thankfully and mercifully. But really great stuff there from Crissy Froyd. So thanks again for her for coming on to the show today.
You know what I will say? I have a lot more respect for her now. Because one, she spoke openly and honestly about stuff. I totally forgot about the JT Daniels thing, by the way, which she brought up towards the end there, which I think she got a little overjudged about because people were claiming that she did this, that, and the other thing. I think that's why I asked that question at the end. Like, what's the most ridiculous headline that...
And then you hear this stuff come out like, what the hell, man?
But... I have a lot more respect for her as a... Ugh. The world never stops, does it?
Well, we finally have a goal in the World Cup. Mexico now leads South Africa 1-0, 20 minutes in at Estadio Azteca.
So we got the first official goal of the World Cup?
It belongs to Julian Quinones in the 9th minute. Even though it was initially waved off, they went back and said it's a good goal. So 1-0 El Tri over South Africa right now from Azteca in Mexico City.
I guess you could say that's your first official sound off of the World Cup here, right?
Yes, there it is. Finally.
But overall, she is a very nice person. I will give her that. Is there some things from time to time that can be a little like off the wallish? Sure. But that's kind of how we are as an industry.
Yes,
now,
we are.
There's no more like when you and I were first getting in the industry, like you had to be like all cut clean. You weren't allowed to say anything controversial, blah, 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 blah. If you said anything controversial, God forbid, you were fired instantly. Like,
yeah.
But you know what? I think I've changed my tune a little bit on her because I understand where she's coming from. Now,
correct.
It would be interesting down the line. I wish that's why I pushed a little bit slightly. I'm like, well, who's that person? You can't say one name and not
do everything else.
That's the only thing. If I had to question one thing, but otherwise,
Yeah, I agree with Zan.
have to rewind the interview, but the part I saw was very Zan, by the way, we got to thank this guy because Zan knows Crissy and helped us set this interview up. So, but I totally respect her grinding away, working hard, being a freelancer. Zan knows this all too well, who's sitting in the chat now. He writes for about 5 or 6 sites as it is, on top of doing the stuff here with us. So, man. Well, and we'll definitely get that interview up separately for everyone to see in case they missed it. It will be available on this 3-hour replay when we're done. But we'll have it available individually so everyone can take a look.
Oh, wait, we're not done yet because we have another guest joining us in about 15 minutes with Scott Agnes of Fieldhouse Files on Substack to talk all things about his own hot water issues involving him having his credential revoked by the Indiana Fever.
I mean, I was very involved, with thoughts on this interview with Crissy. I have a lot more questions to understand media censorship and all that stuff. So, all right, what story are we going to do since we have to kill 15 minutes?
We'll get to one story here before we get to Scott Agnes here in 15 minutes, though. We'll get to Pat McAfee, though, Nick, according to a new reporting done by The Athletic. ESPN executive management is currently locked in high-stakes contract negotiations with former West Virginia punter Pat McAfee, with the evaluation being proposed at nearly $60 million per year, which would shatter standard sports media salary records and further solidify McAfee as the undisputed structural centerpiece of the entire Disney Sports and ESPN ecosystem. But, Nick, at a staggering $60 million a year, ESPN is essentially paying a premium quarterback money contract to a daily studio host, is doubling down on McAfee, a brilliant play to capture the elusive digital audience, or is it, though, an incredibly dangerous fiscal risk that will starve the rest of their journalism budget at this rate? Where could it perhaps, Nick, be that they pay Pat McAfee more than Stephen A. Smith? Oh, God, you can't let that happen.
Well, what? If you want my prediction of things, he is going to get paid more than Stephen A. Smith. What people don't realize... What? Oh, wait, I thought you were going to play... where is it? The one I play all the time. Oh.
Because he's a raw pain in the ass.
I don't know about that.
But you have to think about in the last question I asked, or in the last couple questions I asked Crissy, what's the plan of evolving when it comes to digital and doing a podcast, doing digital work? We do a lot of digital work here now.
Correct.
With clips and stuff. Pat McAfee has more digital currency than Stephen A. Smith. And people are going to say, but Nick, Stephen A. Smith is the biggest name in the internet. Uh-oh. What happened?
Nothing. Go on.
You good? Pat McAfee.
Spam voicemails. Go on.
Oh, that's great. People are going to say, but Nick, Stephen A. Smith is the biggest name of all time. Okay. You're forgetting that this is not just a TV world anymore.
I am having a very bad day. Today is one of the worst days that I've had in a long time.
Yeah, you know why?
Because he's a raw pain in the ass.
Anyway, Pat McAfee is digital personified. Basically, he does his show on ESPN from 12 to 2. The third hour is fully on his YouTube channel, the ESPN YouTube channel. They're looking for the younger demo to watch the product. Pat McAfee is for the younger demo.
I mean, I think McAfee has overtaken Stephen A. I don't think he's as out of control as Stephen A. can be sometimes on air. But then again, I don't watch a lot of ESPN content now that they ditched around the horn. I'll watch Kornheiser and Rollbon and maybe SportsCenter late at night. That's about all I'll watch because I'll either listen to local talk radio or what have you and stuff like that. But that McAfee, I think, though, Nick, has been probably the best hire recently that ESPN has done. I don't know if that's really a stretch, though, but I mean, $60 million, though, for a guy who was a punter in college and in the NFL is a little bit interesting. It's not like you're paying Stephen A, $70 million per year or whatever. I think, though, that I think Pat has, in a way, maybe evolved a little bit, though, when he's gotten into the digital space, with how they do the program on ESPN. I think you're right, though. You've got to tap into the younger audience. That's why I think that baseball has failed so badly the last several years, that they're not engaging enough with Gen Z, Gen Alpha, Gen Bravo, or even us late millennials of the late 90s still, that they're out of touch, like not like the NFL is or the NBA is. The NHL's trying to shed like that, as you said, that clean cut professionalism only. You can't have fun. Soccer players are soccer players though, Nick. But that's why that getting a guy like McAfee bolsters ESPN though, from my perspective, because you've got the loudmouth, but he also knows though how to get and reach out to those younger demographics though of viewers that watch ESPN content.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at McAfee, his clips are always going viral. He's always getting the biggest guests. I mean, heck, he had LeBron James on his show over First Take. Now, LeBron and Stephen A have had a public feud for years, so he would never go on First Take anyway.
And how about the fact that McAfee somehow wrangled in every sports commissioner during one of the weird weeks where there was no sporting events on for a pre-taped interview?
Well, I would say ESPN helped that slightly, a little bit. But
yeah, but I still think though, I mean, McAfee gets every commissioner of every major North American sports league though, like damn.
except Roger. But
yeah, well, what else is new? Come on now.
But I will say though that people are more comfortable going on Pat McAfee's show than they are going on a First Take or a Get Up, because it's all what's the word I'm looking for? Persona driven. More like there's a narrative, as opposed to on McAfee, it's about having a good time and talking about sports. He's also interviewed some WWE wrestlers. Well, yeah, because he worked with the WWE for a long period of time.
Nick, by the way, I don't mean to cut you off, but are we allowed to share a video from Estadio Azteca via the FIFA Twitter account, or is that a no-no?
I don't know the answer to that currently. I'll have to look into it.
We'll hold off then. Go on.
But people are more comfortable going on McAfee's show because it's a judgment-free zone. And big names are willing to make fun of themselves on McAfee, which is what's funny about it.
I think that's why I said what I said about like not even that. I think though there's a familiarity, Nick. Current player interviews former, or joins a former player, where again you have that same exact kind of shared experience. Where again it'd be different, I think, than talking to Stephen A. or Scott Van Pelt. That again they're not that former player. Where again, but I think it goes to your point though. The comfort factor about going and talking to McAfee maybe over, the big show on ESPN.
I would say, though, SVP, I would pull SVP, though, away from the guys of Stephen A. Smith and others, because SVP has talked to many former and current athletes, and I think also his SVP and Russillo show back in the day, in my opinion, was the best radio show on the network that they had. I mean, Russillo went through his issues. He's now at Barstool. Was at Spotify for a while. To be honest, SVP could go off and do his own stuff. He's that big. He's that big of a name. Now, is he very connected to the ESPN brand? Yes. But could he go off? The Scott Van Pelt name could go off and do a podcast on his own. He technically does one for the Omaha brand.
Yes, Omaha Productions, yeah.
Which, by the way, you want to talk about a business that's really figured it out? It's the ESPN Podcast and Omaha Productions, which does all the podcast production stuff. They're now adding the NFL Network. What happened?
They played Cyrus by the Alan Parsons Project to open the broadcast for Mexico and South Africa walking on the pitch at Estadio Azteca when Fox joined went to start the broadcast. I love it.
Oh, Lord.
Yes.
But I would say ESPN, when they got clowned for being old aged, they have figured it out now how to get young people to listen and watch. Now, it helped that they signed a big production deal with Peyton Manning and his Omaha Productions company, and they have the Manning cast and all that stuff, even though I think the Manning cast is not watched by a young demo, but they figured out how to get young people to listen to podcasting again.
Right.
Remember that story we did on, what was it, from Sportico? The one where ESPN has like a team of just clippers for clipping, like Get Up, First Take. I don't know if they do it for McAfee Show because I think they do their own stuff. but all the ESPN shows, they have a team of people that just clip.
To have one of those for ETB, my God.
But remember, we said they broke a record on YouTube, 100 billion views.
Where's the play button at, damn it?
I think they've gotten more than just the play button. Just going to say that now. They probably got like a giant YouTube statue. Probably. It's between them and Mr. Beast for the most
It's the
views
Statue of Liberty that looks like that's covered in ESPN logos over the years.
Oh, I thought you were going to make the Family Guy joke. Oh, it's a Statue of Liberty's foot. Don't tell me how I got it. I had to use a bunch of favors. I paid like $5 million for it. No. Just take it away. Take it away.
No, it's the maniac. Take him away. Take him away.
But they need McAfee. They need McAfee. He is their biggest value ticket right now. Sorry, Stephen A. You're not the number one value ticket anymore. I hate to. He's still big. I don't want the Stephen A. Obsessors coming after me and saying that, well, we don't see you doing a big show on Mad Dog Sports Radio or First Take or a political show. Yeah, because I'm not a, what is that term you used all the time about hot takes?
We're not a part of hot take culture and clowning people because their 30,000 baseball teams sweep them for the season series or holding mock funerals when teams that we don't like lose in the playoffs.
Don't get me wrong. Do you and I have takes from time to time? It's opinions, though. We're not making up hot takes for the sake of viral views, which is what First Take does.
Exactly.
So it's a weird situation in the sense of Pat McAfee brings more digital. Everybody loves him. Former athletes love him. Current athletes love him. Heck, he got Caitlin Clark on the damn show. How often do you get that?
Never.
And actually, she was in studio. How often do you see that? Caitlin Clark
Not
in
often.
studio. Now, I think he had a little bit of an advantage because his home studio and where they do the show is in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
So that probably helped a little bit. But his show has had Caitlin Clark and LeBron James. I don't see First Take doing that.
Nah.
I don't see Get Up doing that. I don't see any other shows doing that. PTI has guests, but they don't really do that.
Right.
Even though I think PTI is not given the attention it's deserved either.
Right.
I think
I agree.
How long have they been in that time slot? Like 20 years?
Forever. Yeah.
And remember do you remember when they were going through contract negotiations, they asked if they wanted to do an hour?
Because of them getting rid of Around the Horn.
Yeah, and you know what they said?
No.
Get lost. Because the show works the way it works now. I mean, it would be fascinating to see if they had an hour, what would happen.
A long time.
Yeah, but you have to remember, it's like if I do the math correct, I think it would be like a 38-minute fill. Because in an hour, I think you have like 18 to 22 minutes of breaks, depending on what hour it is.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Breaking news, Nick. Coaching news out of the American Hockey League in San Diego, California.
Okay.
Gulls head coach Matt McAfee has left the organization to take on a job as the assistant coach for the Boston Bruins effective today.
Oh, we're going to the big leagues.
McAfee, who is the fifth head coach in San Diego AHL history, led the club to an 88-97, 23-8 record between 23 and 26, his first 3 years as a AHL head coach, leading San Diego to a 33-24, 6-4 record this season in their first Calder Cup playoff berth since the 21-22 season. McAfee will finish his time in San Diego ranked second in both games coached at 216 and wins at 88 behind only former head coach Dallas Aikens in both games coached and wins. So all the best to Matt and his family with the Bruins entering next season as the assistant coach underneath Marco Sturm's leadership in Beantown come next hockey season.
Are you surprised?
A little. He got a contract extension before he took the job in Boston.
How long ago?
Right before the season ended for the playoffs.
Wait, this season?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like a bad miscommunication.
I mean, when that job opens, you're going to take it every time. So I can't fault him for it.
No, I get that, but that just sounds like a miscommunication. Like if you sign a contract extension and then you get offered a job in the NHL.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens with that breaking news story. And a quick update again from the World Cup. It is still Mexico leading South Africa 1-0, 38th minute from Estadio Azteca in Mexico City, Mexico. I think, Nick, do we have time to maybe get to the McMahon story, or should we hold off until we get Scott Agnes on the show?
I'm just looking around because I'm seeing some more headlines out of the James Dolan fiasco,
which we will get to in press clippings, Nick. But obviously, this was a major story, though, that happened with the Craig Carton show on Wednesday before Game 4 took place at the Garden.
So apparently there's a 5 Seconds of Summer concert at MSG, and they haven't made an announcement yet for the Game 5 watch party for the Knicks.
Oh, is that concert at the Garden, too?
Yeah, and apparently it's nowhere near sold out anyway.
Because the whole city's going to be watching Game 5.
So, James not had a
really.
Marco Rubio thinks a billion people. Well, wait a minute. Since Zan is in here, we joke because Dana White said he thought that UFC Freedom 250 was going to beat the Super Bowl numbers. Do you realize 150 million people watch the Super Bowl?
Can I one up you and say that it's also the weekend it's the first full weekend of the World Cup also taking place when Freedom 250 is going on too?
And that's my point. Like
the whole world is watching soccer for the next 39 days starting today.
Yeah. Good luck with that, Dana. You're not going to win that argument. You could yell and scream and bitch and moan all you want, but let's see. He clarified he meant globally and then laughed. Oh, come on, man. Even globally, you're not going to beat the Super Bowl.
You're not beating the Super Bowl or the World Cup. Like, stop it.
All right. You want to introduce here? Our guest has made it in.
All righty, gang. We'll move on to our next guest. Obviously, the WNBA season in full swing, but more importantly, though, the Indiana Fever stuck in hot water regarding the treatment of our good man. And our next guest here, a warm welcome to Press Row today, is our good man, Scott Agnes, joining us now here on Press Row. Of course, Scott, we really appreciate you, man, taking the time out of the day. Obviously, I'm sure it's been very much a whirlwind for you over the last week or so here, but thanks for taking the time out of the day to join us here today.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on here.
So I guess where to start is this has to be an odd situation when you're credentialed for a team. You're trying to report on simple news of an injury to Caitlin Clark, and then you find out, well, we don't like that news, so we're just going to pull your credential away. First thoughts on when you heard the news?
Yeah, I was stunned. I was baffled. I mean, we didn't even have a full conversation. There was no threat either that was saying, hey, if you don't do this, or this, or this is your third strike. There was nothing like that. No. And to me, this was just an everyday type of an occurrence, right? You report on something, you tweet it out, you write the story, you follow up. And in this case, it was pregame. And so there was an availability with the head coach. So not only did I cite what she had to say, but I embedded the video. And this is typical. This wasn't special here. I embedded the video. So if you only want to hear what she has to say, or if you want to hear it without filter, sure, go ahead. And then you follow up and tweet it out afterward. That's standard protocol, I think, for all of us. And so went through all that. It was vetted. It was a good source. Yeah, I thought it was just another pregame here. It was notable because it was Caitlin Clark. And so anytime she does anything or says anything, the whole world moves. And so that was the one unique thing in all this. But no, I was disappointed, baffled by the email I got the next day as if I did something wrong.
Yeah, I mean, Scott, I think what's more pulverizing is that Coach White and Caitlin went to the podium later to state it was a day of back issue that flared up. But the league, though, still issued a official warning to the franchise for violating league injury reporting policies with, certainly, again, that certain window of time you have to get it out there. Scott, given that the league's own action implies that the Fever handled the situation, deceptively, Why, though, do you think that the franchise or the PR department would punish you for trying to provide the early accurate context to the fan base? And then, as you said, you get the email the following day that you're not allowed back to cover the team.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing, like you said, I was literally trying to clarify the situation because it was a little chaotic. And we know,
For sure.
as I have covering this team for a while, but especially these last few years, there's freakouts. People go nuts when, holy heck, what is this? I mean, I saw tweets immediately. Is she out for the season? Here we go again. She's injury prone. It's like, no. Let me debunk all these before you even get started here. It's just part of this injury management as she comes back from injury. It's very typical, but yes, it's disappointing she's not playing in tonight, that game, right? And so, no, I don't quite understand it unless you just want to have more control over it. And the fact that I have sources inside and outside or the organization, I wouldn't call it threatening, but like it's just maybe that's alarming or anything. But here's the thing, as we know, that's called doing your job. It's called having relationships. It's called being thorough and all of that. So I don't know what the thinking is, quite frankly. And they have yet to explain it to me. Why this? Why now? Why to these great levels, especially considering I've been spot on. I've been thorough. I'm there every day. You know, I was going to show up the next day. There's a lot of writers, especially Callan, who will just roast a team and then you'll not show up for another week or two. And so that is not at all the case. They know where I'll be because I had missed a practice. I had a special visit to the White House actually to cover a different story. So I've missed one practice throughout this entire season until recent events.
So one of the biggest things that we talked about this before in the last interview, we just had media censorship being a big problem in the industry. Would you say this was kind of a media censorship issue? Was this I'm protecting Caitlin Clark? Because that seems to be a big thing going on around the W. What do you think it might be possibly?
I think this was a direct target at someone who is just independent. There's no way you're going to the local paper. There's no way you're going to ESPN and this even becomes an issue. Now, if there's a disagreement, sure, come to the individual. Or generally in those cases, like I referenced, you would go to maybe their boss and yell at them for an hour or for 15 minutes. And then guess what? All good. The next day you get back to work and do the same thing all over again. So the only thing to me that is unique about this situation is the fact that I'm self-employed, that I'm independent, that I don't have what some publications do. Here's the thing. I think this is confusing or not known to teams right now. And this especially changed, I would say, from the pandemic on.
Yes.
Is that so many writers that work for known institutions are basically independent. They're contractors. They're writing a story. They're writing their headline. They're going to the imagery database and selecting the photo. They're posting on their own. There's no copy editor. There's no proofreading. Maybe there's some guidance this week. We're writing about trades, draft, whatever. I have friends that do that, and I know directly. They post their own stuff. They have no editor, but because it's with a known institution or whatever, they view that as differently than what I'm doing, where I think that's something teams and PR people don't understand, is just because you work for, I'll take one for example, Sports Illustrated, does not mean you have the infrastructure in place whatsoever. You're your own man running your own site that probably has some oversight if there's a problem, but mostly you're on your own. And that's why it's kind of become, in many cases, fan-led blogs with all these different things. And I think that's lost. There's a target on backs of people like me who do it on our own when we're actually doing the same thing. We're just not working for one of those major institutions.
Yeah, Scott, I started my own Substack 9 months ago called Mr. Small Market because I've been crucified by former podcast host of this network and even partially on here, and from friends of mine in the industry, because they say you care too much about your hometown and too much about small market teams succeeding. But it's an outlet for me, though, to write about my own experiences, though, in the media industry, almost 20 years of PA play-by-play around San Diego where I live. I've written about the Padres and how their offense sucks. I've written about soccer. I've written about indoor lacrosse. I've written about the San Diego Wave. I was a beat writer for them, or a third party like yourself, independently contracted writer for a couple of seasons.
Sure.
And got to cover their first full year when they came to San Diego 5 years ago. But it seems like, though, Scott, that league-wide media policies, to your point, have shifted, though, towards the multi-tiered credentialing system that limits baseline access for journalists like yourself. Do you view your credential being revoked, though, as a dispute over accurate reporting, or is it part of a broader playbook by WNBA franchises to essentially freeze out the local independent beat writer in favor of maybe heavily controlled team-owned media, but also the league-wide corporate broadcast partners like ESPN, CBS, you name it?
Yeah, I view it as a gross overreaction to a disagreement on a story. That's how I see it. And unless they explain to me otherwise, that there was this, and this, that's directly how I see it. I think it is understood for these major leagues that we're going to welcome in our partners. They're going to have kind of free reign. They can record their stuff here. Versus even those like myself who are around every single day, there was a tiered system. And for the first time this season, before games, I wasn't able to go on the floor and take videos or photos or even make observations. And where that's important is like in this case. I don't know if Caitlin was on the court pregame. I can't speak to that because I didn't see that. Or before the first game of the season, I was trying to find out, is Aaliyah Boston out there at her usual time? One of my great superpowers, I believe, is my curiosity and my observations. And so I even asked PR, can I be in the lower bowl? Can I stand 10 rows deep? Like, I just need to be out there to watch. Nope, you can be up in the media seat. Well, you know where the media seat has been since Caitlin Clark got here?
The press
right
box.
Below the balcony.
Yeah.
Right below the balcony. So I have binoculars I take to every single game because it's hard to see from there. Versus before this team blew up and Caitlin Clark was drafted here, my feet could be on the hardwood.
Right.
Think about that. My feet were on the floor basically for credentials for the first 10 years I covered this team because not many people care. They never had sold out, a credentialing system. So I do think from that standpoint, I mean, it's frustrating because I see credentialed media members covering the Knicks game last night.
Right.
And after the game, New York, a major market, and I'm watching a guy follow and I see some of his work. He's got a Knicks t-shirt on. I can't believe we're one win away. I'm like, dude, you're media. What are we doing here? I think the one issue we've gone into is a lot more influencers, content creators, and unbiased reporters are getting credentialed, and they don't mind that because guess what? They're doing is celebrating and pushing great agendas, and I think that's a real challenge here.
Now, I guess the way I want to look at this is looking at the Fever schedule this year. All their games were national this year. I thought that was very interesting. And I'm wondering if that partially had to do with some of the issues. Maybe like Callan was saying, they're freezing out a lot of the local to make their games all national. Do you think that played any factor at all into this situation, that maybe they're so worried because their full schedule is nationally based that they're worried about local stuff, or no?
No, I don't think there's anything to that. I think it was just a matter I did my job, and the fact that they weren't on top of it, and that it was kind of messy, right? In the announcement and the handling and the time, because the challenge was, it's kind of ironic, the fact that the WNBA PR announced, I forget the exact time, but that afternoon, that day, hey, here's the new injury reporting policies. This database will be updated every 15 minutes. It's the exact same thing as the NBA, if you're familiar with that. Of course I am. I cover the Pacers. I think the NBA has been doing that for roughly 2, maybe 3 years already.
Right.
The WNBA moved this way, and here's one big reason why I emphasize how important actually these injury reports are beyond the obvious, is can we watch, and fans want to go and they want to see their favorite play. Look, when teams and leagues start taking money from gambling sites, you have to make sure you have as much info as possible, or else somebody out there, we may not know who, is tipped off and probably making money off of that. And so that's why, to me, those injury reports have become so detailed and so important to be updated regularly. And so the fact is, a kind of a primary one is due by 5 o'clock on game day for a 7 o'clock game. Well, it's 5:20 by the time the Fever made their announcement, and 5:30 before she was even on the injury report. For those reasons, at least, we know that's why the WNBA warned the Fever. They did not do the proper channels. That's besides the point of what I had to say, and it was just to caution fans, you're good. It's not that big a deal. They're doing what's in her best interest after everything she went through last year, something she had never experienced last year, and only being available for 13 games and all those sorts of things. And so it's tied together. But I just laugh at the point here that I was trying to clarify, simplify, actually help out their case. But in turn, they didn't like the wording. And because of the wording argument, that's why I'm on the outside here with no in-person conversation, with no one in the front office, guys, even calling, hey, Scott, what is this about? Tell me, we're caught up in what we're doing pregame. Walk me through your process. What happened here? What do I need to know? Nothing.
So I just want to clarify one thing. So are you allowed to go and see a game? Is it just the credential thing? I just want to understand, where is it?
Like now?
Yeah. Can you go to the arena, the stadium, whatever?
I think my my understanding is it's just I'm no longer given media credentialed access. So sure, I could go buy a ticket and sit there. The challenge with that, of course, is if fans can't take laptops in, or can't take binoculars in, or can't take, premium cameras in. And the negative too on this that I tried to emphasize to fans and observers here is more than just myself. I invested in this product. I've had a photographer at games the last 3 years, not every game. I understand that, but pretty regularly. And that content was free, by the way. That was never behind a paywall. That was additional. Here's some photos. Here's probably 80 photos from tonight's game, in addition to my post-game interviews and press conferences. And I always did a post-game report. I followed all their protocols. What's hilarious is you brought up earlier about the change in the tiers. One of them I still haven't gotten full clarity on. It was something like you're not in that lower bowl area. Well, does that apply post-game? And why I wonder is I always sat at the scores table when nobody was around an hour plus after the game to record my post game. So I went above and beyond not to do that because it was a gray area to me. So that's why if you look back on my YouTube channel, my post game, why is he in this dark interview room? Well, I know I'm allowed in there. Therefore, I'm just being safe in doing that. So if anything, I thought I was being extra cautious throughout this new tier system that all of us are just trying to figure out.
Scott Agnes from Fieldhouse Files on Substack. Again, you probably have heard his name in the news, though, for the WNBA issues with the Indiana Fever. Again, stripping his credential. Joined us on Press Row. Scott, we have a couple of comments real quick from a fellow journalist of our network, Zan Bando, who actually lives in Chicago. He says, Scott, I stand with you as a fellow journalist. Keep up the good work no matter where people can find you next. And also, he says that media seats at most arenas or stadiums don't do you any good. Even I can attest to that. It's really unfortunate, especially as we said with that, whole entire process now about you're allowed to be down here, but you can't be there. You can be here, but can't be there. Don't overstep your boundaries.
It started to become like the collective bargaining agreement. It's so long that I'm not sure any of us have a full grasp on what is and what isn't allowed. Honestly, you're here, but not, once the clock changes to that, then you got to go here. You're allowed. Get this. I was allowed in the interview room, which is press conference room, for Stephanie White pregame, but I wasn't allowed. This is just this year. This is a new WNBA rule. Reality is the Fever didn't like that. Again, going back to earlier, the editorial structure, whatever. The reality is, you know what I'm about. You've seen me 10 plus years. I was there when no one was. And you know the type of work I do. I have friends on other teams in Portland and LA. They don't meet the criteria either. But guess what? PR understands that this, what these individuals represent, what they do, they put in the work. And so they have full access. So it's kind of inconsistent in how it's being handled and very much on a team by team basis there. But seats have gotten worse for sure. That's definitely something. That's why during games, I actually have my computer, my iPad with the game broadcast, AirPods, binoculars. So when players are injured or something or getting treatment, I'm not speculating. I could literally look down and see who is intended to the player or who's sitting courtside, all those different things, because what fans know they're going to get from me is an eye for detail. in addition to kind of the basketball elements. We all can see what's going on the court, but what Pacer players are present, or how many times did she go back to the locker room, or, what were the reactions so many people have said, Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark don't get along. I debunked that in like game 2. Just by visuals, you see them hugging. Stephanie White only hugs one player before every game. It's Caitlin who comes in for the hug. So I think, and these, by the way, are moments that are not captured on the television broadcast.
Exactly.
So that's where I benefit from being there, sharing that. And on top of that, I'm getting video. So it's not just my account. Here's the video to take fans inside those moments.
I just find it funny. I'm sure you saw the Skip Bayless tweet that went out where he completely was off the mark on that news. And we allow that, like you were saying, on social media. He'll get millions of views for totally obliterating news and not making it correct. You're literally trying to do an honest man's job, trying to get in on the inside and get the news so that Indiana Fever fans can see what goes on. But then you have guys, I mean, how do you feel when guys like Skip Bayless are doing things like that and you're just trying to do the job that you work really hard at doing?
Yeah. The challenge with that is he's in that area that's kind of columnist. His point is to drum up interest and controversy. That's kind of the job. Very different than a beat writer who I'm really not giving much opinion. I'm sharing insight and gathering info and compiling stories, but still certainly irresponsible. I think the funny part about it was he wasn't even reporting it. If you read it closely, it was like reports are, and there were no real reports. It was a Fever fan account that put a fake Shams image.
Yes.
So none of it was even correct, but that was a bad game of telephone that had reached like 3 different levels here.
Oh my God. This is crazy. I can't even, I guess one other thing I want to follow up on too, because since you mentioned the Fever, the Pacers, you covered both. Does it affect both, or is it just the Fever that you can't go and cover right now currently? You can still do the Pacers.
No, it's a more complex than that, because actually in my last story, I shared stuff I hadn't shared for 3 years, and it's that Pacers PR, and this one with no explanation, has been keeping me out. The thing they said was I illegally parked during All-Star Weekend. The reality is that's just an excuse. Correct.
What?
Yeah. Go read my story. Seriously, I'd laid out the dumbest things possible here. And the funny part about it is I literally had permission. I pulled up, parking attendant right there. Hey, Scott, come on in. I got 6 open spots, 1 with your name on it. Come on in. I go, okay, great. I wasn't sure if you would this weekend. Sure. It was, by the way, to go cover a Pacers event. It wasn't even NBA during All-Star Weekend. And then just because I wasn't sure, I even dropped him my phone number and said, hey, if there's any problem, someone gives you an issue, just call me. I'll move it. Not that big a deal. 2 days later, I get ripped a new one. Who do you think you are? You're parking in an illegal spot. No one gave you permission. I'm like, wrong. That's wrong too. I was told here. I went above and beyond. Like, so that one is entirely personal with Pacers PR.
Okay.
Don't understand that. I don't think I did anything out at all. They can't even get back to me. That's the sad thing with that one is Pacers. I met with team executives. I've spoken with them. They've suggested things to do. I've followed it to the T, gotten their approval on a message to send, to which I get no answer. So that one is a literal personal shot of they don't want me around, I think, because of my personal and professional relationships. This Fever one is just this one's bizarre because they're going after reporting that was entirely accurate and all that. I don't think they're connected, but I also don't know. But it's just so strange because I've been boots on the ground covering this team. I live a mile from the arena. For 6 years, I lived across the street from the arena. I'm the only one that shows up to their even corporate events from a basketball reporter side. It's usually news, but Blake Shelton has a new bar that they're involved with. I was there. They're getting a Ritz-Carlton and a new Live Nation building across the street, part of ownership, and Herb Simon, he's into real estate. I was there covering that. They invited me to the Pacers draft lottery party. I was there covering that and helping news reporters out who didn't know what any of this meant and the dynamics, right, of losing a pick and what protections mean, all those type of things. So, no, the whole thing is just bizarre. I was covering their G League team all last year. No one's covering their G League team like I did. Seriously. Because that's what I incorporate Fieldhouse Files in. Anything that happens related to the team and now kind of the Fieldhouse district is what I'm calling it, I would cover. and
Yeah, that
and
makes
they
sense.
appreciated it, all that stuff. Except it's these individual PR staffs that I don't know, something's off there, and it doesn't add up to me.
And Scott, that went to a point that Zan Banda, who's in our chat box, said, I think on our show
Okay.
last Wednesday, is that he's of the belief there's somebody in that PR department who is looking to nail somebody, and it happened to be you who's the scapegoat of this whole thing. Do you feel like though that there's been massive overreaching by the Fever PR about how you as a writer, you as a podcast host, you as anybody in the media locally covers this team because of what Callan Clark has meant to both the franchise, the city, and of course to the entire league?
Yeah, I don't know who it is specifically, but it does feel like there is that unnecessary, maybe using your word, oversight there. Like that doesn't just add up, right? Like Caitlin Clark played in a pro-am. I was the only basketball reporter in the country that flew down there to cover that. And also, by the way, the main sponsor of that is Gamebridge. The Fever play at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. There's great tie-ins. It's good synergy between all of that. And the other thing I try to take pride in is covering the ancillary stories. When Lexi Hall, who's on the team and doesn't get as much recognition as any of the maybe regular
Agreed.
starters there, she had a
Agreed.
local camp there last year. I was the only basketball reporter there to cover it and interview her and talk with all about it. So to me, I go above and beyond to cover not just the team, but all the nuances and all the personalities. Like I think the one thing I've focused on doing is to try to provide as much connection and relatability with fans and these players. And so, you know, when Lexi Hall's balancing building her own business with a makeup line a couple months ago, and now also basketball, I'm covering it. When Unrivaled and there's Fever players in it, I was the only Fever individual on those calls and asking the Fever players about their offseason and stuff. Like I'm putting in the work. There's no targets. There's no agendas. There's nothing. We're covering basketball here. Like this is not
Exactly.
politics. This is not that big a deal. And the reality is you can disagree on certain things, but 3 years ago, before the Caitlin Clark era, you couldn't have begged for this type of coverage that they have been getting.
I want to follow up though, Scott, because
Sure.
I recall that the PBWA, the Pro Basketball Writers Association, every league has one. They put out a blistering statement, basically wire brushing the hell out of the league and out of the franchise, though, for your ban, as they called it, in the strongest terms possible. But it seems, though, Scott, that there's been a noticeable silence from some of local peers, maybe currently on the Daily Beat. What does the localized reaction to your ban tell you about the willingness, though, of mainstream beat writers to push back against, censorship when their own access is on the line, like they have or tried to do?
Yeah, I think that's very true. It's quite a difference about the number of texts. I had someone on the local beat, "Hey, I'm so glad you finally made this public." Okay, where's your retweet or anything like that? No, I think that speaks to the larger concern for I could be next or I got to fall in line here. Some of it, yeah, I mean, I took notice that I heard from almost every TV person in town, but the only TV person to tweet something was the one that's retiring in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. That's kind of crazy. Going back to the credential situation,
Sure.
now that obviously you've had to adjust, how have you kind of evolved, adjusted around the credentials situation, not being able to go to the stadium? Are you still doing like as much coverage? Are you doing different coverage? What is kind of the adjustment period now with that?
Yeah, I would say we're just starting to kind of get into that. I mean, honestly, the last couple of weeks, I had all kinds of emotions, right? From like,
Definitely.
I don't even understand this. Like, what is this email? To giving them a weekend, I was like, look, there's a lot of emotions here. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of negativity outside the organization, talking about the conspiracy theorists and theories and speculation, of which, by the way, I always try to debunk here, and that helps, but they obviously don't care. And so, and then also here in Indianapolis, Memorial Day weekend is massive because the Indianapolis 500, of which, by the way, I was covering. I was at the only basketball reporter covering 2 Pacers in the festival parade, and then out at the track credentialed for the 500 and wrote about Caitlin Clark's involvement briefly in the Grand Marshal role. But then after that, I'm not going to email him back on a Monday holiday. So I think I wrote back Tuesday. I feel like I did all the right things in allowing time, giving space, taking a moment to explain everything. I'm not hiding behind anything. I have nothing to hide. I feel like I went through all the necessary steps and the thoroughness of the reporting, of which I still stand by, and I think has turned out to be true, especially as Caitlin's continued to be listed on the injury report. To me, how's that not injury management, right? Like, it's simple as that. And so, in terms of what's next, I think now I'm just trying to get back in the rhythm. I will say last week after I went public, there was a day where I had my first meal at 9 p.m. because I was answering phone calls and emails, and I don't even know how to explain it. There was so much that went on throughout that, both friends, media colleagues, trying to cover the NBA finals to an extent, like the Pacers angle of it from afar. So you got that going on. But I think I hope there is a change. I do, in that I am welcomed back, but right now it doesn't seem like that is to be the case. So I'll evolve. Look, the same people that are going to talk to me then are going to talk to me now. The difference is actually it will slightly negatively impact my reporting, right? Because I can't use my own eyeballs. I can't be at the game. I can't film what I observed at practice. And so what also baffled me is about this, is you want as much thorough reporting as possible, right? But by restricting me, you're actually taking away that. And therefore it leads more to everything else. And so, I'll figure it out. I need to get back in my routine of doing my videos. Like I would do a post-game recap video after every single game. I have not done one since that last game where I didn't know it was my last game. And so I got an audience there. My Substack and Fieldhouse Files is the number one thing, but I also have a great following over on YouTube. So I need to get back and kind of pick up where I left off there and figure it out. I think the audience will travel. I think people understand even more so now what I'm about and getting to the bottom of things. It was funny to me, last thing on this, sorry for the long-winded answer.
No, you're good.
It's funny to me that some of the comments previously had been like, man, you are just in it for the front office. You're a spokesman for the head coach. Am I? All right. If I was, you think they would revoke my credential here? I think that has brought a lot of light to some of the speculation out there about what I've been reporting and saying previously, right? And they thought it was always in favor of the franchise. Well, no. So I found that one pretty interesting, that moment.
That's interesting. And I want to go back to something you said in the answer. So you were talking about you got a lot of calls on the side from colleagues, and I saw you everywhere. You were on shows. I saw you on Yahoo Sports Daily. I saw you on a bunch of other podcasts. I saw national personalities like talking about you, like it was the top trending topic. I think I saw you trending on social media.
I think
Twitter.
For the first day, it was the number one trending topic on Twitter, at least that I saw.
So I guess what was the feeling when you saw your name trending? You were on all these big shows. What did you get out of that moment? And how did you feel that everyone was on your side, really defending you in that regard?
No, I think number one, I appreciated the support. Number two is a little weird and odd because we cover the stories. We are never the stories, even though some national personalities treat themselves like they are the story. No, we should be in the background. We should be asking the questions. We should be finding out and taking fans where they can't go. That's one of the big things I try to focus on is be the eyes and ears for fans and taking them places. Well, in this case, I appreciated all the support because the reality is a lot of it was from media. And a lot of it was from people who consume my work. And I go, look, this is detrimental to all of us. Number one, me, fans that will be hurt by the coverage here. It means I'm not going to be able to ask questions. It means I won't be able to write as many profiles and features like I like to do to allow people to get to know this team. The latest one was about Toli Bevilacqua, who, by the way, I know well because I covered her and I worked with her when I was with the Fever there for 10 years and everything. So I know her well. And the fact that, the point of that story was all these old franchises in the WNBA that have went away are now coming back. And so her first franchise, the Portland Fire, were coming back. I don't think you'll see as many of those type of stories because I'm away there. But the overwhelming support was encouraging, especially from some of the older writers who have seen how, in the 90s or 80s, like this business was thriving. You had the company card and you could go and do whatever you want. Well, now there's Hall of Fame level media that are now like tier 2. It's like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't think we're at a good point in media right now, and that it favors those, to go back to what you said, is the partnerships, the content creators, and the influencers, much more than those that do the work and are just trying to pass along the everyday story.
Man, oh man, what an interview. Scott Agnes, thank you again, my friend, for joining us. Where can people find your Substack, find you on YouTube, and find you on social media for your coverage of the Pacers and Fever, even if it is from afar?
Yeah. By the way, I should note, I love the fact that in the week last week that I dropped my Fever news, I broke a Boom story, which is their G League team, and a Pacer workout that they didn't announce. So it's the work is still going to continue on all three teams, despite all of that. That's what they don't understand. But anyway, yeah, fieldhousefiles.com. That's my primary vehicle where you're going to get everything. A Substack, like you referenced, you have your own as well. YouTube and social media, it's all just at Scott Agnes. And across platforms. I'm biggest on Twitter, but I know a lot of people especially want the YouTube nowadays, just like probably this show, for example. And so a lot more things headed that way. And so I continue to add to the content there, in addition to the number one focus, which is obviously the writing piece. But one other thing, I also laugh, by the way, first Pacers podcast, first Fever podcast was mine. Like, I've been on this job quite a while. The Pacers podcast was back in 2015. And a couple of years before that, when I worked for Pacers.com as their beat reporter, I pitched the idea. We need a podcast. They didn't want it. Now they have a podcast.
It's always amazing when the person who suggests it says, "Oh no," and then they leave and they're like, "Oh, we should do this now."
This stuff.
And they're not even in sports anymore. Yeah,
it's funny you brought that up, because when I worked in talk radio for 4 years here in New York, and I worked for a syndicated program, and I pushed the host was a little bit on the older side, so he didn't understand fully the digital aspect. I said, we need to do like more of these StreamYard things, more of these. And of course, I end up leaving. And what do they do when I'm gone? They start doing all the digital stuff without me. And I'm like, whatever. It's just a sign of the time.
You had the right idea. You just didn't get the yes that you needed. Right?
Correct. And it happens in this business. Unfortunately, sometimes you get told yes, sometimes you get told no. And
yeah,
it is what it is. But Scott, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it, giving the time. And hopefully everything goes well going forward.
Yeah, of course. Appreciate the invite. Good to meet both of you.
Yep. See you around, Scott. Okay.
All right. Scott Agnes joining us right there on Press Row. I'll tell you what, Nick, I mean, if we thought that there was, to confirm what we were talking about regarding the simple fact of there being some kind of gatekeeping, PR pressure, about going about covering the team and doing your job, I think Scott Agnes hit the nail on the head and hit the ball over the wall.
By the way, appreciative. He gave us like a half an hour of his time.
Love it.
By the way. But he's spot on, by the way, and that's why I asked him about media censorship. By the way, you notice a theme in these two interviews today. When you go back to watch this replay of this show, hopefully, a lot of media censorship issues in this industry. And I've seen Scott's work before. He does incredible work. I've read his Substack a few times.
Yes.
And I think the biggest problem is that PR firms, not Press Row, just PR firms that are hired by these teams, they could be real assholes sometimes when it comes to censorship. Oh, you reported the news too early? You're making us look bad. Well, I'm tugging your credential away. I don't think he did anything wrong at all. I think he was just reporting the news, and the Fever didn't like the fact that maybe he beat them, that he beat the team.
Punch, yeah.
So they just said, and he made a good point. Why didn't they come and say to me, hey, like, maybe if you just waited a little bit longer so we could put out our team press release first, or if you're going to report it, just at least let us know that you're doing it. I think it would have been fine, right? Like,
yeah, that was more, I think, what infuriated me was like, how do you not pull the guy aside and say, before you overreach and nab the credential away, why is there not a meeting of the minds before you make that decision?
And I thought he made a good point at the end. You really think this is going to stop me from covering the Fever and the Pacers? And I think he said the Indy 500. And
all these other events that the Pacers are at, the Noblesville Boom are at, or the Fever are at.
The guy sounds like one of the nicest guys I've seen in this industry. He's not a jerk like some people are in this industry where sometimes they get their credentials pulled because they do dumb things. I thought he also made another really good point that sometimes teams are giving credentials to people that don't deserve credentials in this industry. I mean, Zan and I have talked about this forever. Like UFC events. He told me that sometimes like they have pop culture, big papers, big companies there instead. Like he told me sometimes like TMZ and Page 6, they're giving credentials to that, but Zan said he would sometimes have trouble getting a credential to a UFC event, but they would give it to those crappy platforms.
Mm-hmm. It happens all the time.
Tell me what Page 6 has anything to do with covering the UFC?
Rabel and Rossini.
I'm just saying it's ridiculous. And he made some really solid points in this sit down with us that it's all about influencer culture now. Oh, well, let's go get Mr. Beast. Let's go get I don't know, name Jake Paul and Logan Paul. Let's go put them because they have bigger followings than the reporters do. But the problem that you're missing is they don't know the team. They could put out a tweet with a video inside of Fieldhouse, but like it doesn't matter. So what? It'll get a few million views, right? Because they have all those following. But is it legitimate reporting? No. Uh-oh. What?
First big negative news story around the World Cup.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
Within the last half an hour, Nick, there was reporting from Breaking 911 that a middle-aged man has reportedly passed away after collapsing at Gate 11 of Estadio Banorte minutes before the World Cup kickoff. Paramedics were seen trying to attempt to give life-saving measures, but was pronounced dead while being loaded into an ambulance. Again, that's a bit of an unconfirmed report, though. But if that is the case, just what we need to have on the opening day of the World Cup.
Not off to a good start.
And for those still wondering, it remains 1-0 in favor of Team Mexico. Hour into the match at Estadio Azteca. Again, Julian Quinones, 9th-minute goal. And also now South Africa playing a man down after Yaya Sidol was shown a red card in the 50th minute. So
was it one of those new rules?
They have not said yet, trying to find out what it is, but have not done so. Actually, hang on. BR Football has actually put out what it was. Nothing. It looks like it was a bad tackle that broke up a scoring chance for Team Mexico.
So do you think that these refs are going to overreact to everything now because of the new rules?
Yes and no. I think Trevor and I pointed that out on ETP on Wednesday, that a lot of the new rules about, time wasting, stalling, injury timeouts or injury delays, the hydration breaks will be something I'm going to watch closely when I get to watch. The power doesn't go out still. When I get to watch Korea, Czechia tonight at 7:00 Pacific time, that I'll be eager to see how the game flow looks. If we get out of here right at 2:00, I might be able to catch the remainder of the Mexico-South Africa match. But I mean, that's the one thing I think, Nick, I'll be very curious about. Where exactly are we at here when it comes to all these new measures put in place to, save time and, not let these games bleed over beyond their scheduled time.
By the way, we got an update on the Henry Ruggs situation.
I just glanced past it, actually. What do we have here?
Ex-NFL player Henry Ruggs III was denied parole nearly 5 years after killing a woman in a car crash in Las Vegas. The Nevada Board of Parole Commissioners ruled today. So no parole for Henry Ruggs III.
I mean,
he killed somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, do I really have to say anything else?
No.
All right. What else we got? Because now I'm totally lost in our rundown.
Yeah, give me a sec real quick. We got one comment that came in here from Christy. She says good regarding about the news about Henry Ruggs being denied parole.
Yeah, he's an idiot. He was driving 125 miles an hour and crashed into a car.
Killed what, a couple and their dog in the process?
A woman and her dog.
Yeah, woman and it was one of the two. Yeah. With that, Nick, we'll move on here real quick and get back to the nitty gritty here as we get ready to wind down for this episode of PR. That, of course, Nick, goes to Vince McMahon. Reports have come out that former WWE patriarch Vince McMahon did engineer a last-minute legal settlement, completely avoiding a highly publicized, potentially disastrous federal civil trial again regarding the corporate merger 3 years ago of WWE and UFC underneath the new banner of TKO Holdings. The settlement effectively seals critical executive testimony away from the public records. Nick, Vince McMahon slides out of the courtroom yet again at the absolute final buzzer. Does the rapid settlement, though, clean the slate for TKO Holdings to operate without a dark cloud over their heads, or does it leave a permanent asterisk on how that entire multi-billion-dollar fusion went down when they merged?
This is not a surprise. They were going to settle this because they knew how much money was potentially on the table for a potential merger. And actually, Christy will be talking about this on Between the Ropes on Saturday. I'm going to be curious to hear what she says on Saturday. New start time for Between the Ropes, by the way, 7 p.m. Eastern time on Saturdays. This is interesting. And they were talking about potentially between $450 million and $900 million potentially in this merger situation. We all know Vince McMahon is cuckoo in the head. He also has his
I was gonna say you could have said it. He's insane in the membrane.
Oh yeah, he is insane in the membrane. That's right. And then I didn't get to break this before because we were in the middle of the interviews, but there was breaking news that Janelle Grant, Vince McMahon, and WWE jointly asked court to move sex trafficking lawsuit into private arbitration. This is a separate lawsuit from because of all those sexual assault allegations that Vince has been dealing with. Pending approval from the court, sex trafficking lawsuit against McMahon and WWE will likely soon move out of the public spotlight. The reason I think this also didn't go to discovery and become a public trial is because then they would have dragged the Vince sexual assault lawsuit into the spotlight even further. So I think that's why they settled rather than going public, because they would have dragged that sexual assault lawsuit through the mud.
And you know, Nick, what's a little depressing about this, again, maybe not so. It's just the fact, though, Nick, that WWE, though, again, global entity, they tour through, they like tour to hell and back, man. And I went to a show last January, I think last year. It was the first time I gone to a show in 17 years, because the last time I went was in 2008 when I was still in middle school. And it was a night where every match was underneath extreme rules. Like you had a first blood match, false count anywhere, ladder matches, all that nonsense. And Christy says that WWE also destroyed evidence in another case involving shareholders too, which is not a surprise though.
I know what case she's talking about too. And then I think Tom is working on a Benchmarks episode about the steroid cases that happened with McMahon back in the 80s and 90s, and that was public but not public, kind of. But that there's also just been so many blips on the radar, though, Nick, when it comes to WWE, WCW, ECW concerning, just thinking away from even like this, regarding the sexual assault case or the sexual harassment case. But the death of Owen Hart, as Christy documented, though, on Benchmarks about Owen Hart's, death, falling from the rafters of the arena in Kansas City, Missouri, I think. And how Mark Calloway, the Undertaker, the most stoic figure in all of WWE when he's in character, staring at the corner where Owen Hart was killed at. The Montreal screw job. That's real life bleeding into an actual fake scripted event in Montreal back in '96. 30 years ago that event happened. And then, losing Eddie Guerrero 21 years ago, because of steroids. The Chris Benoit murder-suicide case that happened, the losses of other big name, like the death of Umaga, who was, that was not even talked about. Lance Cade's death, like a lot of other things, Nick, have happened away from just, this recent court case, though. I think Christy can even add more in the comment box, though. But, there's been a lot of friction and controversy about how the McMahons, mainly Vince, though, would run the operation. But this is not a surprise, though, where in a way it's like it feels like he's got like a magic get out of jail for free card right at hour 11 every damn time that he's involved in court cases. Yeah, but I think this has nothing to do with the case itself directly. I think like I told you, he doesn't want his sexual assault case blowing up further because the other side would have brought in the evidence. Say, oh, he's a bad guy. So why would you trust him to do a merger and all this stuff? That's where I see that more. By the way, we got some news on Texas Tech.
Oh, baby.
So this is from Brett McMurphy from On3. Big Ten will not prohibit schools from scheduling Texas Tech. Sources told On3, league will allow schools to schedule non-conference opponents as they desire. Nebraska is the only Big Ten school, Big Ten school that said it won't schedule future games versus Texas Tech.
So just Nebraska right now is the only one holding out against playing the Red Raiders.
But apparently the Big Ten will not prohibit schools from scheduling Texas Tech.
Interesting. By the way, I've been multitasking over here, keeping an eye on that Mexico and South Africa match. By the way, Nick, I'm over here retweeting every MLS club, all these watch parties, man, around the country. And I'm trying to go to like a couple of them here in San Diego. It's literally on the beach here in San Diego. If you've heard of Belmont Park, it's a very legendary beachfront amusement park that opened up back in 1925. It is literally, Nick, like blocks packed with El Tri fans supporting Mexico, which, again, rightfully so. You're in Southern California. You're in San Diego. You're 20 minutes away from the border. All the images, though, that I've been sharing, Nick, on the Empty the Pitch Twitter account, it's packed. They're loud. They're throwing beer. I wanted to share the video of wanted to, but we're not going to because of the FIFA copyright. But after the national anthem, Nick, at Estadio Azteca, all the fans threw sombreros after they sang the anthem. Very, very moving down there. And very cool to see how the states right now how the states are having their watch parties right now across the entire country.
Yeah, I mean, you have to remember, World Cup, even though it's a sporting event, it's a cultural event too, where internationally everyone comes together and they watch the game of soccer. I mean, it makes total sense because you said it was in Mexico, right? So it's part of the culture.
Mexico City.
So that makes total sense. Okay, I just came across an interesting note. So this has to do with the Knicks game from last night, the finals game last night. So according to Shams, the New York police, NYPD, has not made any arrests tied to fans throwing eggs at Victor Wembanyama after Game 4, which is the most ridiculously stupid thing of all time. Okay.
They are at minute 70 in Mexico City. Dos Asidos, South Africa now trails as Mexico puts in their second goal of the game in minute 67. You're welcome.
6-7. You're welcome.
2-0, though, in favor of El Tri over South Africa from Estadio Azteca with about 20 minutes to run down there in Mexico City. But go on.
And I know we're going to get to the Dolan topic unless we just do it now since we kind of ran over
It's in press clippings. We might as well, though, Nick. And it was very much, though, despicable, I think, with how he acted on the Craig Carton show on Wednesday afternoon.
We'll get to that audio because I have it. But to finish that report, apparently, and this stunned me, 56 arrests were made after yesterday's game. What? Come on, people. I'm sorry. And I'm taking Johnny out of this when I make this comment, by the way. Knicks fans are despicable. They are.
I would hate to say it as the guy with the California education, but frankly, minus guys here, every New York fan is that way. If you ask anybody out here on the left coast.
Yeah, but 56 arrests after Game 4?
I mean, it could be worse. Look back at when the Lakers three-peated or when the Dodgers won the World Series in 2020 during COVID.
And you know what?
That's why I said you better hope and pray that they win Game 5 in down in Texas. Otherwise, that city's going to be burning to the ground.
It's not going to matter. Even if they win Game 5, they're going to destroy New York one way or the other. But what did we say after Game 1? I think it was 4 to 6 arrests were made after Game 1.
Yes.
Then I think it was like 20-something after Game 2 or 3. Now 56?
And that number is only going to be going up as the next couple of days go on, and especially if the Knicks win it all in Game 5.
I saw some disturbing videos between last night and this morning where Knicks fans were stomping on Spurs fans' heads on the streets. I'm sorry. Like, there's a group of Knicks fans out there that are delusional, disrespectful to the game, disrespectful to the fan base. If you stomp on someone's head, you should go to jail for life.
Just ask the 2 Dodger fans who paralyzed Brian Stowe at Dodger Stadium. All because he's rooting for the other team.
Is he doing life in prison or no? Or jail?
They both are, yes.
I don't get it. And this is why I'm partially terrified to go to stadiums sometimes, because it gets very aggressive sometimes at stadiums with fan bases. I told you the story. I went to a Yankee Red Sox game with my father years ago at the old Yankee Stadium, not this one. And we saw Yankees Red Sox. A fight broke out like 7-8 rows below us.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that happens all the time with Padres, Dodgers. It happened all the time with Chargers, Raiders. I mean, the first NFL game I went to, Nick, in 2007, Chargers, Broncos on Christmas Eve on Monday Night Football.
Wow.
My dad and I are in the upper level of the stadium, and there's a couple wearing Broncos gear. They're probably a few years older than I am, I'd say, at the time.
What, they get yelled at?
No, they had a Charger fan throw a full cup of beer and hit the girl in the back of the head on their way out of a stadium.
Here's the problem. You could be a fan of any team you want. I could care less. You could be a Padre fan. I could be a Yankee fan. It doesn't matter. You can't be disrespectful to people for who they root for.
I mean, let alone threatening someone's life because they don't root for the same team as you is beyond stupid.
Of course it's stupid. I mean, I love Yankees Red Sox. I love watching those games for years. You really think I'm going to go to Yankee Stadium?
No, of course not.
And God forbid, go to Fenway Park?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I tell people all the time from New York? If you're going to go to a Yankee Red Sox game, you better not wear a Yankee jersey or a hat.
Yep.
You're not going to make it out of there alive.
Exactly.
But 56 arrests after Game 4. And James Dolan wants to blame Mayor Mondami here in New York and Jessica Tisch, the NYPD commissioner, for not having the watch party outside of MSP. I mean, I guess we can go over to that. I have some of that audio here. So what do we want to hear first? Do we want to hear what he has to say about the mayor and the commissioner believing in New Yorkers? Or do we want to hear what he has to say about how he didn't demand the extra Secret Service security?
Let's go about New Yorkers first.
All right, so let's grab that. When I tell you this is unbelievable, it is unbelievable. And so let's grab this. So this is from the Craig Carton show with C-Mac. Take a listen to what James Dolan had to say.
All I would say to the mayor and to the commissioner is, like, believe in New Yorkers. Believe New Yorkers can handle this, right? We're the greatest city in the world. We got the greatest citizens and fans in the world. They are not going to turn this right into.
So let me ask you an
Armageddon.
obvious.
All I would say to
So
the
you heard what he said, right?
Yes.
Like, are you kidding me? Believe in New Yorkers?
Yeah. No kidding, Christy.
What do you mean believe in New Yorkers? They're getting arrested.
Yeah, I mean, come on now. These same fans asked for Tony Gwynn's autograph before the 98 World Series, and they threw batteries at him after he hit a go-ahead homer when he came back to play defense in right field.
All right, so let's listen to another one where
we do have a follow-up, Nick, about the Mickelson story, but let's go on, though.
Oh, is that the thing Johnny posted?
No, I found one from Yahoo Sports, but go on.
All right, so this one is about how basically the commissioner and the mayor are killing the celebration in New York, which I just don't get how that's possible, but okay.
these things confuse.
Go ahead.
This is not really about a watch party, right? We put up two, fairly decent sized screens, right, alongside. And, I don't think, that you can get much more than 1,000 or so people to that will see the screen.
Right.
This is about celebrating the Knicks at Madison Square Garden, at the Mecca of basketball. This is what the mayor's office and the commissioner's office is trying to kill. They don't want the celebration. I can't tell you why they don't want the celebration, right? I'm not sure they know why they don't want the celebration.
Because they don't want the damn city to burn to the ground, dumbass.
The amount of arrests is the reason why they don't want the celebration. But the problem is, James Dolan did not tell the full truth yesterday. So, and I think I have one more that we can look at too, because again, this is just James Dolan on the Secret Service. I think we got to hear that one too.
Yes, please.
What? What'd you find?
Play the audio first, because I just got a funny notification from Uber about the World Cup that I think you might find interesting.
Look, let's just talk about the game 3, right?
Right.
The Secret Service didn't demand this stuff. It was NYPD, and it was really the commissioner's office.
Really?
Right?
It would have made more sense if it was the Secret Service.
It would have, right?
Because we could accept that. We don't like it, but we would have accepted it.
But no, this was the commissioner's plan all along. She just used the president coming as an excuse to set it up.
Are you kidding me?
Come on, man.
You're going to tell me that the president showing up for game 3 and you're going to blame the NYPD and the NBA commissioner office for what happened? Are you serious?
Exactly.
James Dolan is is on his rocker a little bit.
That's terrible.
And you know what Johnny was saying before he had the internet issues? He was telling me that this almost reverted back to the early 2000s Knicks.
Yeah.
Where he made himself the public attention, rather than the team. He almost did that last night before the game. He said to me, if the Knicks lost last night, what do you think the story would have been? They said, probably James Dolan. Yeah, that's par for the course, Christy. You're right. That's all the audio. But, come on, man. Give me a break. Okay.
Do you want the Uber perk or do you want the Mickelson update? Which one first?
Well, you mentioned the Uber perk, so I want to hear that first.
So the Uber perk, because I got notified of it right now, Nick. If anyone has the Uber app, which I'm sure everybody out there does in some capacity.
I do. Yep.
You can now sign yourself up for a 30% discount if your nation loses in the knockout round of the World Cup. So if your favorite national team is eliminated from the tournament, Uber will grant you a 30% discount on a future ride up to at least $7 in the U.S. and Canada. The defeated discount perk lets you easily leave the packed bar and game day crowds behind if your team gets knocked out. So all you have to do is go into the Uber app, go to your account section, customize your in-app car icon with the flag of your favorite national team, and if that national team is knocked out during the knockout stage, you will be given a 30% discount applied to a future trip via Uber. And also that they are now, Nick, offering flat fee shuttle services between MetLife, AT&T, and Hard Rock Stadium between $45 to $50 to and from your location to the World Cup venues if you are going to the games.
I mean, it's kind of an interesting perk. Well, I mean, makes sense as an incentive, right?
I mean, especially if I'm going to be going to all the watch parties down by the beach. But that'll only be when Team USA hopefully gets in a knockout round.
Makes sense. All right. What do you got on Mickelson?
To recap the Phil Mickelson story, though, folks, but six-time major champion Phil Mickelson has now been accused of non-consensual and also inappropriate physical contact with a female employee at the Farms Golf Club in Rancho Santa Fe, California, which is in San Diego, Phil's hometown. The allegation resulted in his immediate removal from the golf grounds and revocation of his membership at the club. The golf course released a lengthy statement via Tom Clare, the club released a lengthy statement announcing that it conducted a thorough investigation into the incident and stands by their decision to remove Mickelson. The club has also shot down and declined to comment further on the matter at hand, as Mickelson's attorneys have indicated that they will, in fact, file a lawsuit if, in fact, this happens. Per the attorney, Tom Clare, to Golf Digest via Johnny Montalbano, there is a great deal of misinformation circling, and while Phil's full attention is devoted to a private family health matter, he has retained defamation counsel and is determined to hold accountability at any publication or individual trafficking in speculation or false rumors. The private health matter, by the way, in the statement refers to Mickelson's announcement earlier this year that he would be stepping away from golf temporarily, which came at the time of the Masters Championships more than 2 months ago, with Mr. Clare also saying a part of the incident involving his client was squarely contradicted by objective video evidence.
I mean, the only thing I could say right now is until it's officially proven, then we can't say much right now, currently. If news breaks, we'll cover it, and we'll jump all over it. Maybe we can find, what's his name again, to come back on.
Mr. Alan Shipnuck, yes.
Now that we have contact with him, we can get to him. But here's what I could say now, and it's the same response I gave for the Rossini-Vrabel situation. Until we have confirmed allegations and he's proven, it should be innocent till proven guilty, not guilty till proven innocent.
Win-loss behavior.
So my answer is we can't say anything until we know what happens officially.
And for those still wondering, Mexico still leads South Africa 2-0 from Estadio Azteca with about 8 minutes left to play in the game, plus stoppage time. Nick, we're against the clock here. We'll get to press clippings right now and get started here. But first, before we actually do that, let's also remind everybody, though, real quick, that listen up if you're a fight fan, because this weekend the ETB Network is bringing you a combat sports broadcast event unlike anything you have ever seen. The eyes of the entire world are turning directly to Washington, D.C. as the White House prepares to host a historic milestone, UFC Freedom 250 on the South Lawn. We have wall-to-wall coverage lined up this weekend, beginning on Saturday from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, as Tom Albano and Zan Bando will host the UFC Freedom 250 pre-show as they break down the massive title unification war between Ilya Tupuria and Justin Gaethje. Then on Sunday, wake up early for the show with Zan Bando for Zanzinger Part 2 at 11 a.m. Eastern Time for a special Fight Day edition of the program. And the moment the dust does settle on the South Lawn, Tom and Zan are back for the post-fight show with instant reactions and deep analysis. So keep it locked into ETB all weekend long for UFC 250 coverage right here on the Empty the Bench Network. What a weekend we got. Holy cow.
Yeah, we're busy. And also on top of that, if you're a football fan and you need to set your alerts right now, this Friday night, the 2026 FIFA World Cup gets real for the red, white, and blue, immediately following the final whistle of Team USA's highly anticipated tournament opener against Paraguay. Empty the Pitch goes live. Callan McClurg, who's sitting next to me, is teaming up with Trevor Williams to give you an absolute masterclass of a post-game recap. They'll break down the starting nine, the tactical adjustments, and what the result means for the U.S. men's national team's knockout stage hopes. Catch it right here on the Empty the Bench Network Friday night after the game ends, probably around 11:15, 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
That also reminds me, I will have to change that read because that is actually starting 11.
Oh, is it starting 11?
Yes.
Maybe I forgot
to swap out the Roman numerals. I'm like, oh, no. Oh, no.
Did I misread it?
Starting 9. Like it's baseball.
No, I'm saying, did I misread that Roman numeral?
Yes.
Oh, it is 11.
Yeah, starting 9.
The problem is I don't know soccer
they
as
flip,
well as
yeah, and they flip flop because 9 is 1.
Yeah,
X,
that's why I would.
For 11 it's X1.
Okay,
honest mistake. It's okay. No one's gonna. Hey, he did it wrong.
I know my Roman numerals like when they're small. I guess because my brain like turned.
I have Roman numerals as part of my tattoo, and I have to remind myself what they all mean. So,
but yeah, check out Callan and Trevor. I don't know. Is he going to be on the Friday one or no?
We'll see. His work schedule, as we know, is a little bit rough, but we'll do our best to carry the load though for you folks here. But if not, you can catch us on Saturday morning to recap the games today and Friday, and also preview the games on Saturday where we have the first 4-game or first match fixture schedule on Saturday.
By the way, that's like a double dip because you're doing the stream on Friday night leading into Saturday morning for the show. I mean, heck, if you're not subscribed to this network from Friday all the way to Sunday, what are you doing, people? From the ETP Empty the Pitch stream on Friday night to ETP the show on Saturday morning to the UFC Freedom 250 show to Crissy doing Between the Ropes to Zan Zinger Part 2 on Sunday to ETB Lounge on Sunday night to a post show on Sunday night for the UFC Freedom 250 show. And if that wasn't enough, we're bringing back Tough Enough, the Ultimate Fighter show. Let me finish, and then you can say it. And then we'll have the Ultimate Fighter show sometime at night after the UFC pre-show. The weekend is loaded. You better not miss it. Okay, what happened?
We need to get a goal horn in the soundboard for the World Cup when we're doing live shows and we have a goal scored by. Okay. South Africa now is playing with pure frustration, Nick. They are now down to 9 men. Another red card has been issued to South Africa in the dying 4 minutes of game time here with a 84th minute red card. So literally now they're trying their best just to rack up red card accumulation points, which, by the way, is a tiebreaker if you rack up too many negative points on the referee's book for yellow and red cards, too. So they're already hurting big time here.
You know what I do want on the soundboard? I want Andres Contour with just yelling goal. I just, every time a goal goes off during a show, I just want that sound. Goal!
So, yes, South Africa now playing with 9 men for the remainder of the match down in Estadio Azteca, and El Tri leads 2-0 still. So they are going to move on to 1-0 and 3 points in the Group A table with still Korea and Czechia coming up at 10 o'clock Eastern time on FS1. All right, Nick, we'll wrap up for the day here, though, with some very quick press clippings here from our 4 stories here. Nick, some more calendar shuffling a little bit for soccer, but turning away from its initial highly controversial attempt to follow the European model. Now the USL Women's Super League announced a massive shift starting next season. The Women's First Division League below the NWSL will flip their calendar to a spring to fall model to now completely align its competitive schedule with the domestic footprint of the current NWSL. Nick, moving from the European model back to the spring and fall run, does this now align, or does this alignment with the NWSL create a better landscape for domestic soccer fans, or does the league give up its biggest point of international being different by doing this? Or more importantly, Nick, rumblings of the 2 leagues perhaps merging.
Yeah, I heard that news. By the way, I don't know. I think this is bad because now, what did I say to you when you move from spring to fall? You're competing against what?
Everything else.
Football, NFL, NBA, NHL, baseball. You're competing against everything. UFC, anything. You're literally competing against everything. Why would you move into the same time of the year when everything else is on?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, they're going to go like the February to like where MLS is at right now before MLS flips their calendar the other way around next season. I mean, I'm wondering, though, if this sets up merger talks, though, between the 2 leagues to grow the footprint of the NWSL. I don't know if that would be a smart idea, though, but who knows?
You got to be careful because, oh, God, what were the 2 football leagues that merged that made the UFL?
XFL and the USFL.
That hasn't really worked out too well.
Yeah, this one would kind of scare me a little bit just for the fact that the NWSL has gradually grown so well lately and that a lot of the USL teams play in like college stadiums or high school fields or very
what are you going to
small.
call it?
I would think it'd become the NWSL because they have the larger name and brand and footprint.
But they're not going to do the stupid thing where they try to put the names together like the XFL and...
Yeah, I don't think they would. Let me go and take a quick peek and see if I can find where a lot of these teams are at real quick here. So it's only an 8-team league right now, for those that are wondering. So it's only 8. They're adding 3 more teams in 2027. So they have teams in Brooklyn, Carolina, Dallas, D.C., Fort Lauderdale, Lexington, Jacksonville, and Tampa. And future teams could include Boise, Idaho, Patterson, New Jersey, Rogers, Arkansas, Des Moines, Iowa, Buffalo, New York, Eastridge, Tennessee, Indianapolis, Oakland, California, Madison, Wisconsin, and Palm Beach, Florida. That'd be interesting.
I guess. I mean,
there's already a few teams in those markets, though, but, more can hurt, but who really knows, though?
By the way, I just want to point out something because this just popped up on the Twitter feeds, even though it's about an hour ago. Did you see the Fox tribute to Grant Wall?
I thought that was very moving.
They did a really good job. They had was it Rebecca Lowe doing
Rebecca Lowe narrated.
Yeah. Well, they had her do a live narration while they were doing it. They did a really good job. I still feel really bad for what happened to him in Egypt, right?
Qatar.
Or Qatar. Well, that's in Egypt, where they had all the issues to begin with the heat.
Stadium problems, the gay rights, human right violations, you name it. Yeah.
Workers not being treated properly when they were building the soccer arenas and stuff.
Oh my God.
What? What?
And now Mexico gets a red card in the 92nd minute. So it's become a full-fledged boxing match down at Estadio Azteca, as Mexico's going to hang on to beat South Africa 2-0 with roughly, I'd say, 1 more minute of stoppage time to play.
I still find it funny. I don't know how they determine stoppage time in soccer.
The fourth referee, the one that holds up the giant board that reads that number 10's coming in for number 11.
The subs, yeah.
They keep a watch about how long those delays take, and that's how they calculate the stoppage time for the first half and the end of the game.
Is that a continuous count up clock or something?
Yes.
That's interesting. I did not know that.
Nick, 1 month after becoming the very first female trainer in 152 years of horse racing to capture the Kentucky Derby with star colt, Golden Tempo late trainer Sherry DeVoe has made history again, as last Saturday Golden Tempo stormed down the stretch again to capture the Belmont Stakes, making her the first woman to ever train 2 separate Triple Crown Classic winners. So, Nick, it's safe to say that Sherry is utterly rewriting the history books of a incredibly old-school male-owned sport in a matter of weeks. Does this dominant multi-gem performance firmly launch her into the conversation as a premier operational trainer in American horse racing, better than the controversial Bob Babbitt?
Is she better? I mean, Baffert's had an incredible career. Now, is he a cheater?
Controversy, yes.
Is he a cheater and a dirty trainer? Sure. No, I can't say she's better yet. She hasn't accomplished as much as Baffert has. But if you want to say she's doing it cleanly, yeah, you can. That's
Christy.
That's the nicest way. But I wish I had to say morons in Spanish.
Oh, it's easy. It's imbeciles. Imbecile is how you say moron in Spanish. Yes.
Oh, and we just use that word. I feel like everyone uses that word in every day. I think I've used that like 1,000 times on this show.
I mean, imbecile. You can call them idiotas or
I've heard
tontos,
that one. I've heard idiotos before.
Yes.
Yeah. Is she better right this moment? No.
No, but I mean, still though, winning 2 of the 3 Triple Crown races though, and it's been in comeback fashion in the final turn coming down the stretch to win it all. Pretty impressive stuff.
I still think it was a big mistake though that the other horse, I forgot the name of the horse that won the was it the Derby or
no, it was the same horse that won the Derby and won the Belmont and won this past weekend.
No, it wasn't.
They didn't run the following race a couple weeks later because of fatigue.
Oh, so wait, the same horse won the third.
They for some reason took off of the second race, and that's been a very controversial talking point in horse racing circles, that all 3 of the Triple Crown events are way too close to each other, and the horse doesn't have enough time to recoup and rest.
Yeah, but I have a problem with the fact that they raced both the first and the third race. You don't race the second one. It should be mandatory that if you win the Derby, which is the first of the 3, you have to race at least the next one because you won. You shouldn't be allowed to just say, "Oh, I'm out of here. I can't." I don't know. I just don't think that's right. At least in my opinion, I don't think that's right.
Yeah.
But
all right, Nick, last one here for the day. New data per SBJ analyzes the early stages of the current baseball calendar, confirms a massive revolution in fan consumption habits, up from a modest clip of 42% back 5 years ago. Now, though, Nick, an overwhelming 76% of all baseball weeknight games have now begun well before 7 o'clock local time as clubs now optimize their weekday schedules for younger fans and families to come to the ballpark. Nick, we've now seen the pitch clock obviously trim down game times, but does shifting the actual start time before 7 p.m. local time do more to save weekend broadcast ratings or fan retention inside the ballpark than any other rule change ever could do so, in your opinion?
No. Think about it, because say you have fans that are on the West Coast that are East Coast fans. Moving the time up is actually not better. It's actually worse. If you're a Yankee fan on the West Coast and they move the game up to before 7 p.m., some work days are not over yet.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be what, a 4:05 Pacific time start if the Yanks play at 7:05 at the stadium?
And they really don't do 05s and 10s like they do on the West Coast. Theirs is, or they say the start time is always 7 p.m. But just from a logical standpoint, so we're not factoring minutes and seconds in, that's 4 p.m. Pacific on the West Coast.
And people sometimes are still at work, and the Padres now have played all their night games at 6:40.
So now on the East Coast, for that reason, that makes more sense for a West Coast game. If they start at 6:40, I can watch a game at 9:40,
right,
if I wanted to. But from the East Coast perspective for the West Coast, if they start a game earlier, think about those dumb Sunday games they used to do.
Yeah.
What time? 11 a.m. Eastern time, right?
Oh, when they were like on the Sunday leadoff game, yeah.
You're not getting up at 8 a.m. Pacific time to watch a game. Even if the Padres were in it, I don't think you would get up.
No, and it was funny when I was back east years ago to help my uncle drive across the country back to California from Connecticut. I was there while the Padres were at home for a homestand, and my phone is going off at 9:45 p.m. Eastern. Padres versus whoever is about to start. Like, wait a minute, what? I'm like, I'm on the East Coast. I forgot, but I did get to watch the Yankees and Mets play though at 7:05 from the Bronx. Though while I was back east, I'm like, oh, so this is how the East Coast actually watches baseball.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. By the way, can we do one funny story here for a second? Because I just came across this, and this has to do with a certain couple that we've joked about for a long period of time. If you catch my drift.
Yes.
From UNC.
Yes.
Jordan Hudson has filed public records requests seeking communications from 24 UNC staff members. The request target messages and records containing the words ban or banned, along with Pablo or Torre, between January 2025 and May 2026.
What?
I got a better one for you.
You need to shut the fuck up.
I mean, really? Is she that paranoid about what people say about her?
Censorship of the media.
God, if that weren't the topic of conversation today.
Finally, after 7 minutes of added time, it's finally over. Final score, Mexico 2, South Africa 0 to open up the World Cup.
Well, which was expected, right? Please Mexico continue. was going to win, but she's nuts.
Yeah.
Jordan Hudson is nuts. I can't even go on to explain how she makes any sense. But that'll do it for the show. Thank you to our two guests today, Crissy Froyd and Scott Agnes. Those interviews will be cut separately to be put up if you just want to watch the interviews. If you want to watch the whole show, the replay will be available as soon as we are done on this this show. But you made it through without the power going out.
Thank goodness.
That would have been weird if I had to interview Crissy Froyd by myself.
Yes.
Scott, I probably could have handled by myself. But you know what? And my mind changed. I thought Crissy Froyd was going to come on and be a complete asshole. I thought. Now, did she answer everything the way I thought she was going to answer it? No. But you'll see that interview. We'll put it out later. But I think she said some intriguing things.
Oh,
Though,
yeah. I thought
also,
she brought a lot of good stuff to the table today for sure.
I think it's interesting that she has some new platform stuff coming out. Apparently, she's building her own platforms. Thank you to Zan Bando, by the way, my co-host on ETB Sports, for helping us set that up. And our next show, June 17th, back to Wednesday.
Yep. There was a one-time ordeal with us going to watch the all-whites practice at USD yesterday. That is their nickname, by the way. And I actually found out why they're called the all-whites, because they're known for wearing all-white uniforms whenever they play soccer matches. That's why they're called the all-whites. I know it might be weird, but that's just what they do.
But it was fun, and I think there's more content coming from there, right?
Yeah, there's still a couple more videos to go.
And like Callan and Trevor had said on Empty the Pitch, you're going to get I almost knocked my water over. You're going to get videos, 2 to 3 minute videos, once a day, hopefully. Like kind of maybe like a sum up of the day of matches, maybe.
Yeah, I'll probably do one tonight once Korea plays Czechia at 10 o'clock Eastern, kind of maybe come into the studio and record a quick little video to recap both the Mexico match, which again, they just won 2-0. And again, we'll have Korea, Czechia as well. And also, folks, we're trying to also put out a daily watch guide on the Twitter account and the IG account so people can find out where to watch the games. We label them with all the networks, so it's either on Fox or FS1. So the night game at 10 o'clock Eastern featuring Korea and Czechia is going to be on FS1 tonight, not on Fox.
Yeah, so there's plenty of coverage to come, so don't you worry. Again, Empty the Pitch, live stream Friday night after the game, hopefully around 11:15, 11:30 p.m. Eastern time. And then the debut of Empty the Pitch, the daily show on the weekend. So don't miss that. 11 a.m. Eastern time, 8 a.m. Pacific. The early wake-up call for Mr. McClurg over
It'll
there.
work. It's worth it this time around. Trust me.
Soccer.
Are you ready for some football?
That's so weird hearing that in like a soccer term. I remember they used to use
Are you ready for some football?
Football.
Football.
Futbol. Football.
Ashes mark over the O. Yes.
Exactly. See, I do know some of my stuff. But that'll do it for the show. June 17th next week, back to Wednesday. 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Follow the show on social media at Press Row ETB across all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and maybe sometime TikTok. At ETB Network, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network. Help us get to those watch hours. I will tell you right now, the quicker you get us to the monetization, the quicker maybe we could do more live stream things, because we'll have brands and representation to really build those out, more incentive for people to do the streams. But until then, he's Callan McClurg. I'm Nick Morgasen. That's it for another edition of Press Row. Until next week, have a good day, everybody. Have a good weekend. Make sure you tune in for our long weekend of stuff, UFC Freedom 250, and everything that we're doing. Until then, have a good night, everybody. Goodbye.